Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. After breaking up with the school beauty, I became a martial arts master. Chapter 1. In August, the sky was overcast. Raindrops intertwined into fine lines, fell through the air, and fluttered to the ground. In a high-rise apartment in Thai City. So, the spiritual energy revival will be fully launched in a year, and now, almost the whole world is continuing to develop modern society in an orderly manner, completely unaware that a year later, the academic qualifications and wealth they pursue will become the most useless waste paper. The era of practitioners will begin in a year. Fang Yi stood in front of the mirror and murmured. His figure was reflected in the mirror, thin but not bony, his face was young but not without fortitude, which was the appearance that the older generation liked. Once the spiritual energy revival is launched, the world will undergo earth-shaking changes. The beasts mutated and caused chaos in the city. The whole world will evolve in an unknown direction. Power is everything. Only by becoming stronger can you be qualified to occupy a place in the future. Fang Yi took a deep breath. Having read countless spiritual energy revival novels, he knew the truth. Fang Yi was originally just an ordinary senior high school student. He failed the college entrance examination and had no chance to study at a university. The only thing worth mentioning was that he had a school beauty girlfriend in high school, Chu Qingli, who was beautiful, slim, and had no flaws in grades and background. After the college entrance examination, he was admitted to Tsinghua University and Peking University, with a promising future. He had a good family background and was a daughter of heaven. When Fang Yi thought of this, he couldn't help shaking his head and laughing. It just so happened that Chu Qingli was admitted to Tsinghua University and Peking University, and Fang Yi, an unlearned guy, could only go to a junior college with his college entrance examination score, so the students in the school said with gloating that these two people were definitely finished. Tsinghua University and Peking University and junior college are like the bright moon and the mud on the ground, they are completely two levels of existence. However, times have changed. Fang Yi's heart moved slightly. I wonder what the situation will be like when the school beauty Chu University finds out in a year that her university degree and the knowledge she has learned through hard study will be useless. His eyes sparkled. After all, who could have thought? How could the spiritual energy revival actually happen to me? As for why he knew it so clearly, a cold mechanical sound rang in my ears. It is detected that the spiritual energy has officially begun to slowly revive, and the automatic writing system has been started. Countdown to spiritual energy revival. 364 days, 11 hours, 55 minutes and 35 seconds. As the owner of the system, Fang Yi said that this is the standard configuration for time travelers, and I hope every handsome time traveler has his favorite system, amen. Now is the beginning of the spiritual energy revival, the starting point of everything. This system comes from the ultimate universe, using the top algorithm containing the secrets of the universe, and can automatically write the exercises according to the spiritual objects seen by the host. Currently have exercises. 0. See the system details display. Fang Yi's pupils trembled. Automatically write exercises. In this era, no one has noticed the spiritual energy revival. Only I know through the system that the spiritual energy revival is about to begin. I am 1 year ahead of everyone else. During this year, the spiritual energy revival has slowly begun. All kinds of spiritual fruits and anomalies of the spiritual energy revival will be enjoyed by me alone. This is a track that no one has started yet, and by the time they find out, I have already traveled thousands of miles ahead and become a master of martial arts. Fang Yi's eyes are shining. After the spiritual energy is revived, not only humans, but also animals and plants will be irrigated with spiritual energy and mutate. Moreover, the entire earth will be full of vitality, and countless super spiritual fruits with special effects will be born. After swallowing, you can gain extraordinary power. The most important thing is that after the spiritual energy is revived, the celestial phenomena will also be affected. There may be rainbow light columns like aurora, strange constellations will appear in the starry sky, divine fire will descend, and thunder will explode. If I can get the benefits of them, I will also usher in a brilliant evolution. And these are the best materials for my writing ability, and I can write powerful skills and abilities. Everything I see can be compiled into a successful method. From the introduction, it seems that this is just a function of preliminary development, and various good things that are in line with the spiritual energy recovery may be derived in the future. Now that the spiritual energy has gradually recovered, the scene of the changes in the world has begun to appear in every corner, and the concentration of spiritual energy is enough to accommodate the birth of practitioners. Now the curtain of the spiritual energy recovery has not been fully unveiled. Practicing in secret, walking on the edge of the abyss. 1 year is enough for me to develop. Fang Yi lowered his head and looked out the window. In the prosperous and magnificent city, the crowds are crowded and bustling. The money and power of this world divide people into different classes. And this will be broken in a year. The world will be turned upside down and reshuffled. The high-ranking people will fall and the latecomers will reach the top. Chu Qingli hasn't contacted me for 3 days. Fang Yi suddenly thought of his school beauty girlfriend at this time. She was admitted to Tsinghua University and Peking University. With her appearance and other conditions, she is definitely the top-level proud girl with unlimited future. Compared with her, Fang Yi, who is in junior college, is indeed an ugly duckling. However, if the spiritual energy revival is activated, these are completely different. But at this moment, what Fang Yi didn't expect was, his mobile phone suddenly vibrated. Chu Qingli's message came. Fang Yi, I've thought about it carefully, and I think our relationship is still not very realistic. The love in the student days will eventually come to the time when we both wake up. Maybe at this time, we will find that we are not very suitable for each other. It takes courage and a good match to spend a lifetime together. So, let's break up. A cliché breakup plot. However, Fang Yi, who knew everything, had a different feeling. Why do I have an inexplicable feeling of 30 years in the East and 30 years in the West? The corners of his mouth are harder to suppress than AK. Indeed, Fang Yi expected Chu Qingli to break up. After all, in most people, no, except Fang Yi who knew about the resurrection of spiritual energy. Everyone thought, when Chu Qingli was admitted to Tsinghua University and Peking University, and Fang Yi was admitted to a junior college. These two people are destined to go in opposite directions. Their past may have been really beautiful. But as Chu Qingli said, it's time to wake up from the dream. The fairy tale love dream of school days should also wake up. It's a cliched opening. I always saw this kind of opening of being dumped when watching the resurrection of spiritual energy before. Can you be a little bit innovative? I often saw it before. Is this the first sword to land, to kill the one you love first? I didn't expect it to happen to him now. Fang Yi chuckled without comment. Times have changed, miss. Fang Yi tapped the screen, typed a good word, and sent it. On the other side, Zhongyu Lakeside Villa District. On the balcony, a slender figure was reflected in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass. The rain kept washing her beautiful eyes. She tightly grasped the phone, looking a little entangled. The phone vibrated and a short word popped up. Okay. She looked down and her eyes trembled, as if she couldn't believe it. But even if she almost stared a hole in the phone, the other party only replied with that one word and didn't send any more messages. It was like a stone thrown into the sea, without causing any waves. Chu Qingli couldn't help biting her lips with her pearly teeth, leaving deep teeth marks. He answered so crisply, was he pretending, or was he really? Chu Qingli couldn't help but click on the message again and check the reply repeatedly, but what annoyed her was that she actually saw a hint of indifference in that one word. With a snap, Chu Qingli's face turned cold, she threw the phone on the sofa, turned around and walked downstairs without looking back. The rain fell for a while, until the city was soaked into a wet capsule, and then it finally stopped. High-rise apartment. After Fang Yi finished replying to the message, he no longer cared about this school beauty ex-girlfriend. He walked into the living room and turned on the TV after a long time. At this moment, the TV was broadcasting the noon news. Fang Yi sat on the sofa and watched it attentively. Fishermen in coastal areas found super-large abalone, which was more than 10 people could hug, suspected to be a product of nuclear wastewater. On the screen, an expert sat in the office, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, and talked seriously to the camera. The situation facing mankind is very serious, which has never happened in history before. This time, we can't find a solution from history. We can only rely on our own abilities and try our best to adapt to the environment. Fang Yi frowned slightly when he heard this. These words sounded like nonsense at first, but they were terrifying when you think about it carefully. Sure enough, the reporter's next report was that this super-large abalone was also found inland. In response, the expert gave the answer that residents should also take corresponding protective measures at home. He did not appease the people, nor did he deny the mutation of abalone. Instead, he urged residents to take precautions. In the eyes of Fang Yi, who knows the inside story, this performance is more like knowing some other reason, but he can't say it directly due to the instructions from the top. He guessed that this is most likely a warning from the country to ordinary people regarding the revival of spiritual energy. In order for people to make corresponding preparations, the country has to give them a vaccination in advance. Fang Yi changed another channel. The news is still reporting strange phenomena. An ancient tree in a 5A level scenic spot has grown too fast, and its roots are 10 miles long, attracting tourists to watch. The result of this report is that the scenic spot is blocked due to routine repairs and is temporarily not open to the public. In particular, it emphasizes that the noise during the repair period is disturbing, and tourists are asked not to go to the scenic spot in the near future. Fang Yi looked at the news and touched his chin. Repair, isn't it really isolation? In his opinion, this is more like a means of isolation by the country. Isolating the ancient tree that attracted onlookers outside, in disguise, protected the safety of tourists. Fang Yi changed several channels one after another. He found that the news on each channel was the same. Cracks appeared in the earth, suspected of abnormal ground veins. Giant vines hanging from the depths of the sky, the source of which is unknown. Railway tracks were torn in many places, causing some casualties. In short, it can be said in one sentence: strange phenomena have occurred in various places, pay attention to your own safety. There is an old saying in Sha State: Confucius does not talk about strange things. In the past, there were news about such frequent phenomena, but they would never be broadcast so widely, let alone to the extent of flooding the screen. The only possibility is that this was deliberately released by the top for the public to see. It seems that many supernatural phenomena have begun to appear in the world now, but under the cover of the country, it still maintains a superficial calm. Fang Yi said to himself. This kind of silent and gentle way of reporting is the consistent method of Sha country, which can make the people accept the facts quietly. In the long run, when it is really impossible to conceal it, the people of Sha country can still keep a cool head and believe in their country. This is relatively troublesome, but the effect is much stronger than the neighbor's 0 yuan purchase and Gatling shooting. At this moment, Fang Yi's sight was deeply attracted by a rolling news. The news showed the ultraviolet intensity of Tsinghua and Peking University campuses is far higher than the normal value. Please take sun protection measures for all new students who report. Tsinghua and Peking University. Fang Yi suddenly remembered his ex-girlfriend, who seemed to have been admitted to Tsinghua and Peking University, and today was the first day of school. Tsinghua and Peking University were quite lively today. However, this thought only flashed through his mind. More importantly, Tsinghua and Peking University have clear landmarks, and it is easy to find whether taking a car or subway. Moreover, compared with those mutated animals and plants, strong ultraviolet rays are not very dangerous. You just need to take good sun protection and avoid getting sunburned. Fang Yi thought carefully for a moment and decided to go to Tsinghua and Peking University. The next day, at 10 o'clock in the morning, a figure stood at the gate of Tsinghua and Peking University. The sun was scorching, stretching his shadow very long. The fallen leaves on the branches drooped over his head, as if they would be scorched in the next second. Holding an umbrella, wearing a hat, and applying sunscreen, Fang Yi raised his head, wiped the sweat rolling down his face, and squinted at the top of his head. The sun was shining, as if the sun favored this campus alone. The earth was so hot that it almost melted. The golden sunlight was like a burning flame. It was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. The golden light was dazzling. The security guard walked out of the security room and carefully tested the ground temperature. Then he looked at the temperature gun in his hand. 74 degrees. I'm earning 2,000 yuan a month, and I'm here to play with you. The north gate of Peking University and Tsinghua University. The sun is blazing in the sky. The blazing sun covers the porch. The temperature is 74 degrees, and the ground seems to be smoking. Fang Yi stood in the milk tea shop next to the north gate and looked over from afar. The sun was sprinkled on the ground, forming dazzling golden spots, and the hot air seemed to be humming faintly. The breeze was hot, making people feel as if they were in a huge furnace, and time seemed to be frozen by the blazing sun. But the strange thing is that the north gate is so hot, but the campus behind the north gate is normal. The sun seems to be taking care of the north gate alone. The spiritual energy is revived. The strange phenomenon of heaven and earth. Fang Yi already knew the reason for this scene. At this moment, detected the scene of great changes in heaven and earth. The initial detection is yang attribute fluctuations. Please approach and use your fingers to touch the yang attribute. The system will automatically start to obtain data and start data writing. Successful writing will get 50 writing points. The mechanical prompt sounded. Fang Yi was slightly stunned. Editing point. What is that? You can use the editing point to forcibly implant the editing data you have obtained into anything. Is the editing data referring to the sunlight? What does forced implantation mean? Fang Yi seemed to understand, but what is clear at present is that the editing point is obviously useful. How to use it specifically will be seen later. The most urgent thing is to get in touch with the sunlight first and get the editing point. Thinking of this, Fang Yi stood up and walked quickly towards the north gate. Young man, don't come over. The temperature here is terrifyingly high. I have applied to the school leaders to close this school gate and let everyone go through other school gates. Don't come over, you will get burned. The security guard stood at the door and saw Fang Yi approaching step by step, and immediately waved his hand to drive him away. Obviously, the school over there had already issued a notice. There was not even a ghost at the north gate, let alone students. However, Fang Yi turned a deaf ear to it. Regardless of the guard's obstruction, he walked to the north gate and put his hand in the golden sunlight. The moment he stretched out his hand, the sunlight dyed Fang Yi's fingers golden. Hiss, it's so hot. He couldn't help but gasp. The skin turned red and swollen slightly when it touched the scorching sun. Fang Yi held the injured finger and felt a sharp pain from the fingertips. At the same time, a prompt sound rang in his ear. Strong yang attribute fluctuation detected. Unlock yang attribute data template. Ultimate computing power is being started. Writing. In an instant, the golden light was like a golden silk thread madly winding along Fang Yi's fingers to his arm. What happened? The security guard on the side couldn't help but be stunned. He saw the dazzling sunlight pouring down on the young man like a waterfall. The dazzling sunlight was more dazzling than the scorching sun in the sky. What the hell? This guy seems to have turned into a little sun. What's with this dazzling light? Why do I feel like the sunlight is echoing with the giant sun in the sky? No, how come the light on him is more dazzling than the sun? The security guard put his hands in front of his eyes and squinted his eyes to watch the scene in front of him. At this moment, he was extremely shocked. At this moment, Fang Yi's ears were ringing with the voice of the system. Compiled successfully. You have obtained the yang attribute technique, golden sun breathing technique. Gaze at the blazing sun, exhale the heat, and use the golden sun breathing technique to temper your body. The technique you wrote has been unlocked without learning. Fang Yi suddenly opened his eyes, and a fiery stream of light ignited in his black eyes. He smiled at the stunned security guard, and then the golden sun breathing technique in his body suddenly started. Boom! A stream of golden light instantly converged and rushed towards Fang Yi. The entire Tsinghua and Peking University campus was illuminated by the light and became brilliant. Fang Yi was covered with brilliant golden light. The golden light was dazzling, and he was like a god standing in the sky, in charge of the blazing sun. Between breaths, the golden sun surged through his internal organs. It was as if it was cleansing his essence and marrow and tempering his body. In this process, impurities were constantly discharged from his body. Fang Yi stood under the scorching sun, radiating light all over his body. He could feel that something special had happened in his body. A pure and yang force was flowing through his body with the frequency of his breathing. His whole body was like being run over by a wheel. This feeling made him want to wail, but he couldn't make any sound. Then he felt as if he had stepped into the brilliant sun. 10,000 strands of it turned into a wheel of fire and crashed into his body, bringing unprecedented destructive power. Every cell in his body was constantly breaking and repairing itself. That was an extremely terrifying pure and yang force. In a short moment, his body had been washed and tempered by the power of the golden sun thousands of times. He found that at this moment, there was a dazzling golden light flowing in his blood. The golden light and the blood essence were intertwined, and they regathered and flowed into his limbs and bones. After this, every line and vein on his body contained the strongest pure yang force, and he gained abundant vitality and powerful destructive power. Every breath was fierce. The golden sun seemed to be swallowed into his body and turned into his blood. Is this the golden sun breathing method? Fang Yi was immersed in it. This kind of body tempering feels painful, but it is really wonderful. At this moment, he could not hear the outside world, so he naturally did not notice it. The golden light here attracted the attention of many students from Tsinghua University and Peking University. They sat in the classroom and looked over here. What is that? As soon as this was said, suddenly, the sky darkened, and when I looked up, I could not see the sun. Strange, it's dark. Am I dazzled? It's bright again. It's dark again. Why does it feel like the sky is dark and bright like the sun is breathing? Does the sun breathe too? I saw the sky and the earth flickering. Bright, dark. Like the frequency of breathing, light and darkness rotate, daylight and night alternate. But it was not the sun above his head that caused this scene, but Fang Yi. With his breathing, the sky and the earth were bright and dark. When the sky and the earth were instantly swallowed by darkness, everything around him fell into endless unknowns, which looked particularly thrilling. The stray cats in the college fled in panic and hid in the haystacks, meowing and trembling. When the sun came up, the metal door of the north gate collapsed and melted. Beep, beep. The alarm shattered the silence and called back Fang Yi's attention. Fang Yi opened his eyes, stunned. Huh, I did all this. The mess in front of him looked like it had been hit by a bomb. As the culprit of all this, Fang Yi made a decision in an instant. Run, south gate of Tsinghua and Peking University. Banners fluttered and people were bustling. Volunteers welcoming new students braved the scorching sun, looking back and forth among their future juniors, looking for newcomers in their department, but without exception, everyone's eyes fell on the tall figure at the door, and they subconsciously stopped for 2 or 3 seconds before moving away. Regardless of appearance, her temperament was cold. Her eyes were like peach blossoms, but they seemed to be quenched with ice. She looked cold and delicate, and her long, smooth hair like a waterfall added a touch of purity to her temperament. This person was Chu Qingli. She had just arrived at Tsinghua and Peking University alone to register and was waiting for her luggage. At this moment, she stood at the door and her eyes fell on the couple who were in love with each other. Love brain. After looking for a while, Chu Qingli retracted her gaze and sneered. She knew very well that once she stepped into Tsinghua and Peking University, her life was half successful. After stepping in here, she had to give up everything before. Fang Yi's resolute face appeared in her mind. When the results came out, they were destined to be people from 2 different worlds. Now that they broke up, everything in the past was gone with the dust. She would start a new life. And Fang Yi was destined to only drag her down. After completely cutting off the thought in her mind, Chu Qingli slowly stood up and walked towards the Tsinghua and Peking University campus. However, boom, as soon as she stepped into the campus, an extremely dazzling golden light suddenly burst out from the direction of the north gate. The north gate seemed to be lit up by a sun, and the golden light poured down like a waterfall, sprinkling on the surrounding trees and buildings, reflecting half of the campus red. Under the illumination of the golden light, the originally calm school gate was instantly filled with a mysterious atmosphere. The students around stopped at the same time and looked at this sudden scene in surprise. A girl with a ponytail trotted to Chu Qingli's side. This was Chu Qingli's new friend. She had a good temper and a congenial personality. At this moment, she also noticed the strange scene by the north gate. North gate, isn't it closed? Yes, there may be another supernatural phenomenon. Supernatural phenomenon. There are indeed more and more strange things recently. Chu Qingli murmured in a low voice. Recently, strange phenomena have occurred frequently in various places: mutated giant trees, giant pythons as high as small mountains, and strange rains have continued for several months in the south, not only in China, but also abroad. Behind the seemingly calm situation, there seems to be some undercurrent surging, which is pregnant with an earth-shaking change. While it is frightening, it is also full of curiosity. Let's go and have a look. High temperature warning at the North Gate of Tsinghua University and Peking University. Please stay away from the North Gate and don't approach. The campus radio station broadcast instantly. But Chu Qingli has already arrived at the North Gate, and the scene in front of her made her frown slightly. Looking around, the metal gate of the North Gate was melted by the scorching heat, and the ground was covered with cracks, as if it had been ravaged by a huge flame. The rocks and soil were melted into a chaotic lava under the action of high temperature. The lava emitted strong heat, making people dare not approach. The air was filled with a burning smell that made people's eyes sore. Some remaining metal fragments on the ground flashed with residual light. The scene was extremely terrifying. You are still telling me about high temperature. I would believe it if you said it was poured by magma. Are you kidding me? How could 74 degrees cause this phenomenon? It's just like being bombarded by artillery shells. I really think the times have changed. Don't you find that the recent news in Xiaoguo is very strange? Things that wash away the worldview are happening everywhere. It's unbelievable. Is there any academic who can explain the reason why the sky was dark and bright just now? It turns out that I'm not the only one who felt that it was dark a few times just now. I thought I was blind. For a moment, they were all shocked. What's going on? What are you doing? Just then, a stern rebuke came. The principal walked over quickly. His voice, which was usually kind, was now irritable, and his majestic eyes swept over everyone present. Why are so many people gathered here? Didn't you send a text message not to come? Hurry up and report. Those who don't go will have their credits deducted. Everyone shuddered. This principal rarely came to school. What's more terrifying is that the principal didn't come alone. Behind him, there was a group of people in military uniforms. Each of them had an extraordinary aura, which put a lot of pressure on ordinary college students like them. It seemed that they felt difficult to breathe if they looked at them for a second. People pushed and squeezed, and they were all taken away, and the North School gate was also blocked. However, the shocking traces on the ground all symbolized the occurrence of supernatural phenomena. Chu Qingli was at the end of the team. Before she left, she vaguely heard the man in military uniform murmured, "It seems to be man-made. Someone who has been exposed to spiritual energy in advance has appeared." Man-made, spiritual energy. Such a horrible scene was actually man-made. Her eyes swept across the forest, and she seemed to see a figure vaguely. Fang Yi. The next second, she shook her head secretly. How could it be possible? How could he appear on the campus of Tsinghua University and Peking University? In the park with lush green forests. A figure walked in quickly, and he stopped and breathed a sigh of relief until he was sure that his shadow was completely invisible from the North Gate. Fang Yi wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. It's a big deal. In the early stage when spiritual energy has not yet fully recovered, making such a big noise will definitely attract the attention of the higher-ups, but exposing oneself too early is not a wise choice, at least he has no such plan at the moment. So he ran away. However, what Fang Yi didn't expect was the sensation caused by the golden sun breathing method was so big. Fang Yi looked down at his body. He is now like a small golden sun, with terrifying golden light flowing in his body, and extreme heat waves inhaling and exhaling between breaths. It looks a bit scary. If someone passes by and sees it at this moment, I will definitely take a photo and post a short video. I feel full of strength now. Fang Yi opened his palm, and the golden hot light appeared in the palm, flowing along the palm veins, as if breathing. It looks thrilling. Now Fang Yi has been reborn, and the golden sun breathing method makes every cell in his body full of strong and blazing yang power, which are all things that ordinary practitioners value but cannot obtain. The yang attribute is domineering and strong, and the body that has been tempered by it has extended this characteristic to the extreme. Not to mention that the spiritual energy recovery has not yet begun. Even in the later stage, this top-level technique is only possible for the pride of heaven. And now, Fang Yi has used such a powerful and domineering, extremely yang and extremely strong technique for the first time to temper his body. His first step has already led others by a lot. Fang Yi returned home. It was already evening. He simply ate a takeaway and took a shower. It was less than 9 o'clock when he finished all this, but he was ready to go to bed. I was exhausted from the journey today, and I couldn't even get interested in playing games. I can't sleep at all. Fang Yi tossed and turned in bed for a long time, sighed, and sat up again. The hot heat flowing through his body made him very excited. Fang Yi at this moment. He started to practice the golden sun breathing method again. The strongest yang attribute tempered his internal organs, and all the yang attribute spiritual energy was in his breathing, constantly wandering around his body. Buzz. His lungs were baptized by the golden sun breathing method, and he could vaguely hear the sound of his blood boiling and vibrating between his breaths. In his body, the blood and qi were surging like hot waves. Fang Yi's body trembled slightly, and he felt an unprecedented excitement pouring out continuously, and his body evolved supremely in the tempering of the scorching sun. Fang Yi's eyes flashed with golden light, and he let out a long sigh. The golden sun breathing method is indeed very powerful. After practicing twice, his most obvious feeling was that his body had improved. He no longer felt his original stomach problems, and now he only felt warm in his stomach. I have started practicing. This is a brilliant road of evolution. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is the most precious nutrient in the world. Some diseases in my body have also disappeared, and my physical condition is unprecedentedly good. Fang Yi whispered. This is the benefit of evolution. The spiritual energy recovery has not yet officially begun. It is conceivable that in a year, the physical fitness of the whole people will be raised to a strength that the predecessors could not imagine. After slowly calming down his breathing, Fang Yi still couldn't sleep, lying on the bed and browsing the news. The news is still dominated by strange and chaotic sections. Most people have noticed the increasing number of strange phenomena, and some speculations have also been derived. Some people say that they blame nuclear pollution and severely condemn it. Some people speculate that Xiaoguo is testing some new weapons and it is inconvenient to disclose it to the outside world, and some people firmly believe in the theory of the destruction of the earth. Hey, what is this? Fang Yi's eyes were attracted by a hot search. The Spiritual Qi Cultivation Association updates the realm table. The Spiritual Qi Cultivation Association. This is an online association organized a year ago, mainly publishing some spiritual qi cultivation rules from time to time. When this association was first established, it released a little knowledge of spiritual qi cultivation, which caused quite a stir on the internet. In the eyes of most ordinary people, watching this association is just for fun. The Spiritual Qi Revival novel has been popular for so many years, and someone actually compiled a little knowledge of cultivation. It must be crazy. At the beginning, it was quite widely spread, but soon everyone found that this Spiritual Qi Cultivation Association only issued some rules that were not as good as the novel, so they turned into birds and beasts and scattered. Later, only a few hundred crazy fans occasionally spoke and posted in it to maintain sporadic activity. Fang Yi also read the so-called cultivation rules when it was popular. At that time, he was a pure passerby and had not practiced it. He thought it was quite true. Unexpectedly, after a year, this association became popular again. Thinking of the recent frequent anomalies, Fang Yi clicked on the post by accident. Top Spiritual Qi Cultivation Rules. The first one was the training rules he had read before. The opening is something mysterious like, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the root of all things, encompasses the celestial phenomena, and nurtures all living things. To sum up, spiritual energy is very rare, and we need to absorb it into our bodies in the right way to go further. That's right, but the question is, what is the right way? For people who believe in science, this is not as simple and crude as getting up at 3 in the morning and sitting in the living room at a 45-degree angle facing the moon to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, so this association will be a flash in the pan on the internet and soon disappear. Fang Yi flipped through a bunch of invalid pinned posts, and his fingers were almost smoking when he finally found the information that caused heated discussion. Details of the realm of immortal cultivators. I subconsciously clicked in to see it, and as soon as I entered, I saw a layout with white text on a blue background, a large logo of the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association at the top, and the date and the association's signature in the lower right corner. It was simple and clear, without any fancy decorations, and it felt like a Xiaoguo announcement. If you look closely, there is even a watermark marked with national certification at the back. National watermark. Fang Yi stared at the watermark for several seconds. Knowing that the spiritual energy was about to revive, his first reaction was, could this announcement be issued by the state? Could this spiritual energy cultivation association be a signal from the state to those who have been exposed to spiritual energy in advance? Newbies are most likely to take detours, even practitioners. Without a reliable master and correct practice, it is too easy to go astray, and it will be very troublesome after going astray. He looked at the bright official seal, which was actually at the end of every top announcement. Xiaoguo is very strict in this area, and the national watermark cannot be faked, and will be worn by the official. But this association is still ostentatious. Could it be that there is really someone behind it? The more Fang Yi thought about it, the more he felt it was possible, and he continued to scroll down. Clicking in, there were several highly praised and sharp reviews. Are you kidding me? Are you really going to come up with a classification for practitioners? I'll treat this novel as reality, ha ha ha, it's so interesting. Don't say anything, brothers. I've already started practicing. Family, my pigpen suddenly cracked inexplicably in the middle of the night yesterday. I suspect it's some kind of supernatural phenomenon. I have to join the guild and learn a few tricks to catch all my pigs. The guy above is really ambitious. It's not that netizens are just for fun nowadays. Look, even comments on such a serious announcement can be so distorted. You can imagine how beautiful their mental state is. Fang Yi clicked in. There was a simple and clear table at the top. Click it to see. First realm, Ghost Axe. Second realm, Creation of Spirits. Third realm, Diamond. Fourth realm, Divine Moon. Fifth realm, Rising Sun. Sixth realm, Pole Star. Seventh realm, Nuclear Ghost. Eighth realm, King. The human body is a treasure house filled with infinite possibilities, but in this world, it is naturally blocked. Aura is the key to unlock all of this. These realms were originally only recorded in ancient relics. When people had the possibility of cultivation and evolution, more and more ancient relics were explored, and these realms were gradually completed. Now, in order to prevent fellow Taoists from going astray, the realms are made public. I hope fellow Taoists can compare them by themselves. Fang Yi hissed. Looking at this introduction, it seems quite real. Scroll down, there is a detailed introduction. Realm 1. Ghost Axe. Use the Ghost Axe of the aura of heaven and earth to create human weapons. Use the innate chi between heaven and earth to train the projection of the flesh. This realm has no threshold, does not require any qualifications, and does not distinguish between the wise and the foolish. You only need to persevere to enter it. Use aura to turn the flesh into a human weapon. Fang Yi thought for a moment. He sat up and mobilized the golden sun breathing method. After feeling the heat surge, he immersed his mind in it. Under the guidance of the golden sun breathing method, the spiritual energy in his body was fierce and powerful, like a rampaging dragon. This spiritual energy was extremely hot and filled with a mysterious and extraordinary taste. The beginning of cultivation is to temper one's own body into a human weapon, and then use the weapon body to contain the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The first step is to try to control the spiritual energy and train the divine axe. At the beginning, Fang Yi's movements were a bit awkward, but soon, he could feel the spiritual energy twisting and gathering in his mind like a pen and a snake, and gradually condensed into shape. Instantly, Fang Yi's body suddenly seemed to break free from the shackles. A projection of a divine axe flowing with magma slowly condensed. Ghost Axe Realm. Fang Yi felt an unprecedented power surging in his body, as if he was reborn. Now that the spiritual energy is about to revive, the whole world is moving forward in the dark, and he has the golden sun breathing method, which undoubtedly opened up a bright road in the darkness. It is probably difficult for a second person in the world to advance as easily as him. Moreover, Fang Yi's magic axe is a little different. It is gilded and brilliant, which should be due to the golden sun breathing method. Entering the Ghost Axe realm is just the beginning. It says that after breaking through the realm, you need to stimulate the spiritual energy to drive the magic axe. Every time the magic axe falls, it means that my realm has been upgraded by 1 star, but now I can only swing it once with all my strength. Fang Yi murmured. There are 9 stars in the Ghost Axe realm. Every time the magic axe is driven, it takes a huge amount of mental energy. The blood in the body is excited and vibrating. The magic axe is about to move, roaring and boiling, and swinging down. 1 star. This is Fang Yi's current realm. The power of the golden sun breathing method is fully reflected at this moment. He instantly feels that he has touched the magic axe, and the hot breath burns his soul. The golden light covers his whole body, flickering, like a blazing sun. It is the blood in his body that has been polished by the golden sun breathing method that is surging and boiling, and the cells, bones, muscles, and every inch are resonating crazily. The golden light continued to shine, like a blazing sun covered by a big hand, revealing a corner of the mysterious veil. A muffled hum sounded. The hot power flowed through his limbs and bones. Feng Yi made a happy sound in his throat. If I were to use the golden sun breathing technique now, what effect would it have? Feng Yi's mind moved, and the golden sun breathing technique was activated instantly. When he used this method to temper his body before, he had the body of an ordinary person, and even the most powerful skills could hardly play their full role. Although his bloodline had also undergone some transformation, it seemed that all the power was accumulated in one place and he could not exert his strength. But now it is different. That power was like a boiling river, flowing directly to his limbs and bones. His skin exuded a faint golden light, and terrifying power was attached from his hair to his fingers. He truly achieved internal balance. Feng Yi experienced it with his heart. He felt extremely happy. From obtaining the breathing method to practicing, it took only 1 day. In this short period of time, he actually broke through to the first realm and the first star. It may sound a bit boastful, but his practice speed is really too terrifying. It seems that this spiritual energy cultivation association is really good. Feng Yi looked at his phone. This post is really timely. Nowadays, all the pioneers of spiritual energy revival are in a state of crossing the river by feeling the stones. However, the road of practice is full of ups and downs, extremely rigorous, and no detours are allowed. This post, a realm table, directly straightened out the route of everyone. Feng Yi is a complete beneficiary. If he relies on his own exploration, the breakthrough will definitely not be so fast. This table saves him a lot of time. The first realm is to condense the ghost axe and chop down the flesh, so what about the subsequent realms? Feng Yi continued to read. There is an introduction to each realm in the post, which is very detailed. The second realm, soul creation, is to use the flesh that has been forged 9 times by the divine axe to create inner spiritual energy. It sounds a bit difficult, but in fact it is a more precise and subtle control of spiritual energy, but this control requires a lot of practice, which Feng Yi still cannot achieve at present. The third realm is to use the inner spiritual energy to achieve a consensus of the 5 senses and 100 bones connected, which can be called the Vajra realm. The fourth realm. Feng Yi kept flipping down, and there were some small methods to help break through in front. The further he went, the shorter the introduction of the realm became. When he saw the 8th realm, there was only a short sentence on it. 8 realms, king with the nether palace as the core, integrating the power of the sun, moon and stars, standing tall, holding the world in hand, sitting on the throne of the world. Feng Yi was shocked, and the picture instantly appeared in his mind. There is a vast netherworld purgatory, sitting high on the throne, shaking the heaven and earth with a single move, rotating the sun and the moon, shattering the mountains, and flooding the mountains and rivers. What an extreme power that is, it simply transcends the rules. How can a person have such power? Isn't that a god? The eye of the divine array, the destiny of heaven. I got excited for no reason. This poll went straight to the bottom. There is a comment below, with many replies. The content of the comment: I've learned a lesson. Most of the posts in the post are scolding. Most people say that the owner of the floor is whimsical, one dares to make up and one dares to believe, and he should go to the psychiatric department to check his brain. There are also kind people who advise him not to take it seriously, and real life is more important. Looking at it, in short, no one believes it, and they are all scolding and pointing fingers. Feng Yi has a different idea. He guessed that this floor owner should also be a pioneer of spiritual energy revival. Like himself, he gained from this practice table, so he simply said thank you. Unfortunately, those people don't know. 1 year later, when the curtain of spiritual energy revival is fully unveiled, how terrible will these people who were laughed at by them be? After entering the ghost axe realm, Feng Yi felt as if every pore was ironed, very comfortable, and was about to go to sleep, when suddenly, he remembered that the system had unlocked a new function during the day and had not had time to see it. Open the system panel. In the corner, a few large words that he had forgotten for a long time came into view. Writing point. 50. Fang Yi frowned slightly at the line of words. What is the use of this writing point? He had been immersed in the creation of writing skills before, and did not have a deep understanding of this. Take advantage of now to study it carefully. The introduction of the system page was concise and clear, and one sentence explained the purpose of the writing point. You can use the writing point to forcibly implant the obtained writing data into anything. Fang Yi stared at this sentence. This seems to be a mysterious passage leading to an unknown area, perhaps more powerful than writing skills. Anyway, it is definitely not bad. However, the writing point is there. Writing data refers to the yang attribute. What does this forced implantation mean? Fang Yi glanced at the mug on the table casually. The crystal glass was shining under the light. Is this anything? Do you want to consume editing points to implant the yang attribute into this object? A prompt appeared on the panel. Seeing this, Fang Yi's eyes flashed with understanding. It turns out that forced implantation is to enchant an object and give it extraordinary abilities. Take my cup as an example. If I choose, yes, this cup will become a cup with yang attributes. This is amazing. Although the cup is useless, what if it is a knife? A gun, or some other weapon? A knife injected with yang attributes will undoubtedly show infinite power in battle. The burning and destructive forces are intertwined on the blade, defeating the enemy in an instant. Thinking of this, Fang Yi's thoughts turned rapidly. If I make a handy weapon and implant the yang attribute into it, wouldn't it become my weapon? A weapon that is tailor-made and has extraordinary power is better than any weapon on the market. Thinking of this, Fang Yi opened the shopping app on his mobile phone and found a special knife-making shop after searching. As soon as he entered, his eyes were fixed on a tang sword on the homepage of the store. The 3'7" blade is wide and powerful, and the straight blade is extremely sharp. The handle is made of sandalwood, plain and unadorned, with only a touch of gold on the top and a crystal white pearl inlaid in the middle. Although it is unopened, it looks handsome enough. That's it. Fang Yi clicked the order button with his finger, and the order was generated immediately. The screen showed, next day delivery. Wow, so efficient. After doing all this, Fang Yi finally felt a little sleepy. Yawned, he stretched, and threw himself into the soft big bed. At this moment, in the dark city, a figure in a black and silver uniform was walking through. She was agile and unusual, and her eyes were shining with a faint silver light, like an elf in the dark night. She seemed to be chasing something, and the earphones were constantly flickering with light. The rabbit that devoured the dark night fruit has not been caught yet. The speed of this thing is really amazing, she said to the other end of the headset. As she spoke, her figure flashed and flew over an apartment building. Under the waning moon, a beautiful arc flashed by, like a meteor in the night sky. A passerby looked up and rubbed his eyes. I seem to see someone flying over just now, but that was the elevator building. The headset flashed a blue light, and a lively female voice came from it. You must be careful, it just swallowed the spiritual fruit, and the mutation and evolution are not yet complete. It is very likely to continue to evolve and become stronger. Don't let your guard down. I understand, the uniformed girl said softly, looking forward, and her figure gradually merged into the night. Under the wave of spiritual energy revival, a new era is slowly opening. This is an era full of opportunities, but it is also accompanied by huge crises. The world is changing drastically, and strange phenomena are appearing frequently. The revival of spiritual energy has spawned countless pioneers, and at the same time has spawned many ferocious beasts. They are ferocious and violent, posing a huge threat to humans. And the rabbit in front of you is one of them. After swallowing the dark night spirit fruit, it has the ability to sneak in the dark. Not only that, it is also aggressive towards humans. If it is not controlled in time and allowed to blend into the crowd, it may cause harm to the lives of ordinary people. Su Qingying frowned when she thought of this. She noticed that the breath she had been tracking suddenly changed direction and went straight into a high-rise apartment next to it, which means that the lives of ordinary people may be seriously threatened. This rabbit has entered the residential area. Su Qingying's pretty face turned cold, and she turned and disappeared into the night. Squeak, squeak. Fang Yi was lying on the bed, about to go to sleep. Suddenly, he heard a very strange sound, which was very mixed and chaotic, and it sounded like a nest of mice had a party under his bed. What the hell? Fang Yi suspected that he was hallucinating. He had lived in this house for several years, so how could mice suddenly appear? Thinking of this, he turned over and didn't take it seriously. But after a while, the sound came again. Squeak, squeak, squeak. This time the sound was louder than before. It felt like the mice were having a climax and started some dirty PY transactions. The sound was ups and downs. Fang Yi couldn't stand it. He opened his eyes. With a snap, the light came on. He stepped out of bed in his slippers, and looked around the room carefully, but of course he found nothing. Is it someone else's pet barking? Fang Yi frowned slightly. He had already entered the ghost axe realm, and now his hearing and vision were far better than ordinary people. It was not surprising to hear the sound of someone else's house. Since it was someone else's house, it was not easy to say anything. Fang Yi went back to bed and continued to lie down. This time he finally didn't hear that sound, but when he slowly fell asleep, the disturbing sound started again. Squeak. This time it was not a simple cry, but a shrill tone, sounding as if it was forced to conduct some PY transactions of a strong man and a man locked up. Every sound was like scratching the ceiling with nails, which made people's scalps numb. Fang Yi lay on his side on the bed, his brows tightening. It's so noisy. The night was as cool as water. In the quiet corridor, there was a chilly atmosphere. Whose pet is this? It keeps barking in the middle of the night. The key is that the sound is so miserable. Is it being abused? Fang Yi got up from the bed dissatisfied, opened the door and walked out. After the beginning of autumn, the evening breeze has brought coolness, but the night wind has no effect on him. His body is hot and scorching, like a fireball. In the dark corridor, Fang Yi seemed to emit a faint light, and looked very different. Following the guidance of the sound source, Fang Yi walked all the way and finally saw the culprit. A rabbit. The rabbit curled up in the corner, trembling all over, emitting a painful breath. However, when Fang Yi approached, he smelled a pungent stench. He stopped and squinted his eyes to observe the creature in front of him. This rabbit is far from being a rabbit. It is completely black, with a pair of sharp teeth cracking from its bloody mouth. Its red eyes are flashing with fierce light. Its hair is messy, standing up like steel needles, which is very scary. Under the dim escape light, this beast looks even more evil and twisted. It is not cute at all, but disgusting. Fang Yi couldn't help but sigh. This rabbit. It's so ugly. This monster is no longer a rabbit, but a creature twisted and mutated by evil forces. It made a hoarse cry from its mouth, and when it heard the sound, its eyes locked onto Fang Yi. The gray corridor was silent, with only a faint light swaying in the shadows. Suddenly, a crisp sound broke the silence, and the light instantly lit up, reflecting the red liquid slowly flowing from the corner of the rabbit's mouth, like the color of blood looming in the light. Fang Yi's heart sank. It turned out that the unpleasant smell he had just smelled was the smell of blood. This rabbit has become a mutant beast. It has shown strong aggressiveness before it has fully evolved. The Dark Knight attribute will increase its frenzy. If its evolution is not stopped in time, this whole building will be bloody. Fang Yi's eyes flickered slightly. The next moment, he slowly walked towards the rabbit. As the lights flickered, the distance between the man and the beast was getting closer and closer. The rabbit's eyes were full of ferocity, and its steel hair stood up. It roared at Fang Yi. It was roaring and threatening. The golden light flowing on Fang Yi's body exuded a powerful sacred power, which made it fear from the bottom of its heart, as if it was suppressed by an irresistible force. In the darkness of the alternating lights, the confrontation between man and beast seemed particularly solemn. It was afraid of this thin figure. Boom! Just as it was howling, the figure suddenly took action. The golden light shone, like thousands of suns blooming in the palm of its hand. The magnificent aura suddenly surged, and Fang Yi was wrapped in terrifying golden light, pure and yang. He punched out. Boom! A thunderous sound exploded. Golden ripples splashed around. A bloody hole suddenly appeared on the rabbit's chest. Then, the bloody body exploded, and countless pieces of flesh and blood flew, each piece flashing with golden light, like a dazzling gold fragment. The rabbit's eyeballs flew out helplessly and finally fell at Fang Yi's feet, with despair and fear in his eyes. Those eyes seemed to tell of endless confusion and puzzlement. Until the last moment of its life, it could not understand. Why is this guy in front of it so terrifying? Fang Yi stared at the eyeball indifferently. With a snap, his foot stepped precisely on the eyeball. A thick plasma splashed under his feet, like a bright red spark blooming in the darkness. He knew very well that although the rabbit had acquired the Dark Knight attribute, the evolution process of mutation had not yet been fully completed, and the Yang attribute just had the power to restrain it. When he punched it, the powerful Yang attribute power in his body burst out and killed it instantly. He had only practiced for 1 day. He could kill a mutant rabbit with 1 punch. Although the opponent had not yet completely mutated, he was already very satisfied. The beast that disturbed people's sleep in the middle of the night really has no quality at all. Fang Yi yawned. He was so sleepy after a busy day. He turned around lazily, without even looking at the ugly rabbit corpse on the ground, and walked straight to his room. Not long after he left, a beautiful figure landed outside the window, and her long legs eagerly stepped into the corridor, trying to intercept the rabbit. She hurried in, but her pupils shrank. There was a mess of flesh and blood on the ground, and there was no complete corpse, only broken limbs and bones, bloody and mixed together. Dead. Her heart suddenly shuddered. There was a residual Dark Knight attribute on the rabbit, and she had to recover it. This was a sub-attribute of the Dark attribute, with an extremely high extreme. When Su Qingying approached, she suddenly frowned. Wait, this breath, such a burning breath, extremely strong, grand and warm, it is not a sub-attribute, but a Yang attribute with an extremely high extreme. Su Qingying's face was complicated. When the spiritual energy of heaven and earth revives, there will be many attribute people in the initial stage. Because the changes in heaven and earth are generally accompanied by the advent of natural phenomena, there is no orthodox practice plan now, so most of the pioneers have some attributes. Gold, wood, water, fire and earth are the most basic and easiest to contact. But for example, thunder, sun, light and darkness, these attributes with danger are very rare, because they are difficult to appear. Such a pure Yang attribute. At least the degree of recovery can reach more than 80. This person is extremely talented. Judging from the aura, he is only at the Ghost Axe realm 1 star. After she confirmed it, she lightly lit up the earphone with her fingers and reported the situation to her superiors immediately. The rabbit is dead. Well done. Did you kill it? It wasn't me, someone else did it. Su Qingying quickly reported everything she saw. After listening, the other party was silent. A layer of silence condensed in the air, as if time had stopped. After a long while, the other party checked the information and slowly said, "Is there an extreme high-level attribute pioneer in your position?" Yes. Su Qingying frowned slightly and stared at the meat on the ground, which still had a faint golden light. There is no trace of him in the archives of the headquarters. The voice on the other end was slightly excited. Such a talented pioneer, we must try to get to know him. Su Qingying nodded deeply. She was also shocked when she saw it with her own eyes just now. What an extreme Yang attribute talent. This talent is definitely among the best in Xia country. In this situation, the other party will get unlimited resources if he joins any organization. As expected, the next second, the superior's instructions came through the earphone. Put aside your recent tasks. Your first task now is to stay there and search for the traces of the pioneers. Be sure to record them. The best case scenario is that we can convince him to join our Spiritual Qi Cultivation Association. I understand, Su Qingying said softly. Her eyes fell on the rabbit corpse again. Who is he? The sun was shining and the breeze was blowing. Fang Yi, who had a good sleep, got up early and sat on the windowsill, ready to start practicing. A day's plan begins in the morning. The bright sunlight shining on my body is more conducive to my practice. Practitioners like them sometimes make extremely dangerous moves in pursuit of pure perfection, such as practicing Yang attribute under the sun, practicing thunder attribute in thunderstorms. There are effects, of course. Visualizing the sun can help him improve the efficiency of the golden sun breathing method, so Feng Yi stared at the scene of the rising sun, breathing the morning air, and exhaling slowly. The golden sun breathing method is running in his body. It constantly turns into wisps of golden breath, rushing towards him. After entering the Ghost Axe realm, the inner court scene seen when practicing the golden sun breathing method is more magnificent, with magma flowing on the huge divine axe, majestic, domineering and mysterious. The breath transformed by the golden sun breathing method was like a thread wrapped around the axe handle, like a giant dragon surrounding the divine axe, eager to try. Fang Yi breathed slowly. As the golden threads increased, it was as if a cocoon was woven next to the divine axe, holding the divine axe on it. The divine axe was quietly hanging on it. At this moment, suddenly, the thread grabbed the divine axe, and then pulled it violently. The divine axe, which was as heavy as 1,000 pounds and as big as a mountain, suddenly moved slightly, as if it was about to swing down. Is it going to break through again? Fang Yi's eyebrows were filled with joy. Every time you break through the ghost axe realm, you need to swing the divine axe, and each time is 1 star. Swinging the divine axe requires a huge amount of mental energy. If you are not fully prepared, it is easy to hurt yourself due to insufficient strength. He tried to consume his mental energy to sense it. I have now touched the threshold of the 2nd star, and I am only 1 step away from the final step. Fang Yi could feel that the axe was not as heavy as it was yesterday. He was like a diligent woodcutter. The first time he touched the axe, he could only swing it once. After practicing for a period of time, he could swing it twice, and so on. Study hard and practice hard, day after day. One day, he will be able to control this magic axe with ease and swing it freely. The same is true for cultivation. There is no other reason, just persistence. The golden sun breathing method also played an indispensable role in this process. After all, cultivation is many times more exquisite than chopping wood. If there is no exquisite and powerful method to guide, it will be difficult to achieve results even if you practice for a long time. At this moment, Fang Yi's heart moved. He used all his strength to activate the golden sun breathing method, and the golden light was tightly bound to the magic axe, pulling it down with force like a broken bamboo. The golden light overflowed and blended with the hot and boiling magma, just like a golden dragon heat wave pressing down the magic axe. Boom! There was a loud bang like thunder. The divine axe fell violently, plowing out a long, hot, black road, blazing and hot. Once, twice. The divine axe swung for the 2nd time. This means that Fang Yi has directly upgraded to 2 stars. He just broke through 1 star yesterday, and today he is 2 stars. This upgrade speed is terrifying. Fang Yi exhaled a hot breath. At this moment, looking from the outside in, his blood vessels showed a strange golden pattern. The gold was very light, and it was faintly shining. That was the effect of the golden sun breathing method after the breakthrough. The blood in his body had been dyed into a pure gold sea. Although my upgrade speed is fast, it is because I had already felt it when I broke through 1 star before, and the accumulated essence of cultivation has not been used up. Next, I have to upgrade step by step. If other pioneers heard Fang Yi's words, I'm afraid they would be angry and spit blood and curse Versailles. 2 days, just 2 days to be promoted to Ghost Axe 2 stars, is it fair? In this process, the domineering of the top-level skills is fully reflected. Ordinary skills take longer to practice than Fang Yi, but gain less than Fang Yi, and the upgrade speed is definitely not as fast as Fang Yi. Every time you break through 1 star, your body feels stronger. If you break through to the next level, it is hard to imagine how much your body will be strengthened. Fang Yi clenched his fist. He felt that he was full of strength now. In the past, he could knock down a kid with 1 punch, but now even a 190-centimeter tall athlete with 8 abdominal muscles can't withstand his punch. This is the side benefit brought by cultivation. With the upgrade, the body will become more and more powerful. Therefore, killing by leaps and bounds sounds simple, but the physical body alone is an insurmountable gap. After the breakthrough, Fang Yi could feel that the yang attribute aura in his body was surging around the divine axe, lush and full. My yang attribute is pure to begin with, and after being tempered, it is even more pure. At this time, the mobile phone on the table rang. Courier, I'm home, open the door now. Fang Yi answered the phone while opening the door. Sure enough, there was a guy standing outside the door. After unpacking and signing for it, Fang Yi was in a good mood and smiled. Nowadays, couriers like to put them in beehives or post stations, and you have to go down to get them yourself. The couriers that can be delivered to your door are almost extinct. In the courier box, a tang sword lay quietly. If you touch the object, you can forcibly implant the attribute. I tried it with a mug before. Fang Yi directly pressed his hand on the tang sword. Do you want to consume the editing points to implant the Yang attribute into this object? Yes. Boom. In an instant, golden light emerged, and the Tang sword was wrapped in the golden light, as if it was instantly endowed with some mysterious power, making people feel as if they were looking at the sun. Different from the fire attribute. If fire is just a simple burning, Yang is the extremely hot temperature. People can look directly at torches, but not at the sun. Just one glance can burn people to ashes, which is magnificent. Editing successful. Feng Yi reached out and grasped the Yang attributed Tang sword. He could feel that this sword was extremely compatible with the power in his body, and they were born from the same source. Feng Yi weighed the Tang sword and brushed his fingers across the blade. Maybe it's because I practiced by visualizing the sun, and now I have pure Yang attributes in my body, and this sword is the same, the attributes match, and it fits perfectly. Although it's not opened, I feel it's even more powerful. After all, in the future battles of warriors, it may not be ordinary swords and weapons. Feng Yi wanted to try the Yang attributed power in this sword. He went out and came to the back mountain. The back mountain is secluded, and no one comes here on weekdays except for the young lovers who are having an affair. Feng Yi took out the Tang sword from his waist. The sword touched the air. In an instant, the golden light on the blade was so domineering that it covered all the dust, and the sky was ignited by the golden light, as if the sun was burning. Everything around was melted by the blazing flames. Ha! Feng Yi's eyes trembled slightly. The first reaction was, "It's a close call. I came to the back mountain where there is no one. This is too much noise. I wonder if someone sees me and reports me for setting fire to the mountain." Feng Yi quickly put away his Tang sword and looked around. Fortunately, when he came up, he saw that there was no one around. In addition, it was working hours, so no one noticed him. Feng Yi turned around and left. Little did he know. When his figure disappeared behind the mountain, a beautiful figure appeared in a hurry where he was just now. Su Qingying held a cup of milk tea and walked around the rooftop without seeing anyone. She stamped her feet angrily. He ran away again. I didn't sleep all night and watched him. I just went to buy a cup of milk tea to refresh myself and he was gone. I must have had some Mercury retrograde recently. Su Qingying opened her mouth and bit the straw viciously a few times to vent her anger. After receiving instructions from the organization last night, she cleaned up the rabbit corpse and waited for the rabbit near this apartment building, learning how to squat. According to her rich criminal investigation experience, 9 out of 10 criminals like to return to the crime scene. Don't ask why the last one didn't go back, the video said so. In short, she waited and waited near the corridor of the rabbit corpse last night, until the flowers withered, but she didn't wait for anyone, only for a little kid who overslept and was about to be late for school and was crying and getting beaten. It is true that he has the attributes of a naughty child, but he has no Yang attributes at all. It's so abominable, forcing me to work overtime again. Su Qingying sighed deeply, and then her sight was attracted by the traces of the back mountain. Wait, that's it. I saw that the rooftop was full of gold. Even if the aura had been extinguished a lot, the light still hurt my eyes. There were a few pots of small flowers on the ground that I didn't know who raised, but they were now roasted dry and burnt, emitting a burnt smell. Sporadic golden light spread on the ground, covering the dust under a layer of golden gauze, dazzling and messy. Su Qingying's face changed suddenly. It's like this again. It's like this again. I have another mess to clean up. What should I do with this flower? Where can I buy a pot of the same one and put it up? I feel so tired. As members of the spiritual association, it is their unshakable responsibility to ensure the stability of ordinary people's lives. The higher-ups are currently planning to boil the frog in warm water, not publicly announcing the news of the upcoming revival of spiritual energy, and infiltrating these strange events into people's lives through news and other means, so that when the real revival comes, ordinary people will not be unprepared. When they go out, they are cautious, and cautious, for fear of seeing the ugly faces of the group of Aftermath department when they go back to make a big fuss. But now, Su Qingying didn't even see the extreme Yang pioneer. This is the second time she has cleaned up the mess for him, and each time it is too much. This account must be recorded. Su Qingying squatted down, and when she looked down, her beautiful eyes suddenly shrank. Impossible. Last night, the aura I sensed was not that strong. It should be the ghost axe that has just entered the first level, 1 star. But today this aura has obviously become much stronger. She was shocked by much more than that. She breathed quickly and looked at one of the traces. Not only that, there is also an extremely strong aura mixed in it, spiritual weapon. Impossible. This is impossible. The number of spiritual weapons is extremely rare. Even the entire association only has 1 or 2, and the spiritual energy core is not yet perfect, so no one is allowed to use it. Su Qingying's pretty face frowned and shook. Spiritual weapon is a technology that only exists in concept. Infusing attributes into weapons can make ordinary weapons display extremely powerful strength. Correspondingly, the users of spiritual weapons will be much stronger than ordinary practitioners without spiritual weapons. At present, the technology is limited and the spiritual weapons have not been fully released. So how did they get it here? How can a pioneer of spiritual energy revival have spiritual weapons that even the association can hardly make? Su Qingying bit the straw and walked back and forth anxiously. At this moment, she really wanted to go down and knock on the door of the residential building to find the mysterious young attribute person and ask what was going on. But she couldn't do that. Any practitioner is not allowed to disturb the lives of civilians. This is the iron rule written in the first article of the Spiritual Association. It can be said that this is a consensus that every pioneer of spiritual energy revival must reach in their hearts. The vast Sha country has a large population. The upcoming Spiritual Energy Revival Society is an unstable factor that will reshuffle the existing social rules. At this juncture, the slightest negligence will cause a large panic. By then, with social unrest and great changes in the world, it will really be the end of the world. That's why Su Qingying would use the method of waiting for the rabbit to find the mysterious young attribute. Unfortunately, the goddess of luck did not favor her. Forget it, we still have to wait and see about the spiritual weapon. Such an important thing can't be reported casually. Su Qingying sighed and resigned herself to helping Fang Yi clean up his ass. Apartment, bedroom. Fang Yi sat on the sofa and counted his gains. Ghost axe 2 stars, young attribute Tang Dao, not bad, my strength has been greatly improved. For practitioners, the sooner you have a handy weapon, the better. However, Fang Yi was thinking about something else at the moment. I don't know if attributes can be superimposed and used on the same item. My knife now has only 1 yang attribute. If I visualize and obtain other attributes, can I also implant them into this knife? He will definitely have to visualize and compile other skills later, and it is impossible that there is only 1 yang attribute. If there are more attributes, whether they can be implanted into the same item is also a problem. I have to say that forced attribute implantation is quite useful. When I have collected more attributes, I can not only have a knife with matching attributes, but also clothes and even pets can be enchanted. The important thing is that each of these is tailor-made for me and perfectly matches me. Fang Yi murmured in a low voice. He lay on the sofa, his fingers subconsciously pressing the power button of the phone. At this moment, the phone happened to vibrate and the screen lit up. You have a new reply. Fang Yi clicked on the message to check. He remembered the person who sent the message. It was the brother who replied to the post yesterday and was ridiculed by everyone for hysteria. Yesterday, Fang Yi liked him while browsing the post. Unexpectedly, he received a private message from the other party. Excuse me, are you also a pioneer? Seeing this, Fang Yi raised his eyebrows slightly, did not reply, but asked back. Are you? The other party was online and sent a reply soon. Yes. Chapter 11. The account page is very simple, even the nickname is the default one. The other party seemed to have determined that Fang Yi was a pioneer, and sent several messages in a row. Nickname YTUGG72, I observed your browsing history. You are very concerned about the recent anomalies in the world. In addition, you liked my post yesterday, so I boldly guessed that you are also a pioneer of spiritual energy revival. Nickname YTUGG72, I have a few friends who are pioneers. We often get together to discuss things and are always looking for off-pioneers. Fang Yi frowned slightly. He did not reply to the other party's message, but first cut out the screen, found the privacy settings, and set the browsing history and replies to private status. Now that spiritual energy has not yet revived, martial arts are the first. Under the curtain of the times, there are too many martial arts pioneers whose backgrounds are unknown. Fang Yi does not know the backgrounds of the other party, so it is better to act cautiously. After doing all this, Fang Yi switched back to the chat interface. Fan, what do you want to talk to me about? Nickname YTUGG72 is typing. Nickname YTUGG72. Actually, we just want to make friends, nothing else. Nickname YTUGG72. There are 3 of us in total. After the great changes in the world, we gathered together to keep each other warm. You know, this is very common among the Forerunners. We all have a premonition that there will most likely be big problems in the future. It is always good to make more friends, so I have been looking online to see if I can find a Forerunner boss. After searching for a long time, he found me, right? Fang Yi felt that this person was very honest. This was the first time he saw someone who shook his underwear so cleanly after chatting for a few words. Well, even his friend's underwear was shaken together. Fan, I'm a newbie too. Nickname YTUGG72. Oh, you're a newbie too, so I don't feel so much pressure to speak. We're all newbies, so we can discuss things together in the future. Fist. If you don't understand anything, just ask me, I'll tell you everything I know. Fan, thank you, brother. Fist, you've seen the realm table of the spiritual practice, how is your practice going? Nickname YTUGG72, I was just about to tell you this. I'm telling you, that body tempering divine axe, I tried to condense a next, I spent so much effort, that magic axe is so hard to condense, only one of us 3 brothers succeeded, hee, isn't it amazing? Quote. Fan, awesome, awesome. Nickname YTUGG72. To be honest, I feel that at this time, there are not many people who can condense the magic axe. As for those who can step into the ghost axe of the opposite gender, they are all monsters, pure evildoers. Fan, oh, nickname YTUGG72. Actually, I have some inside information. You know that there are many pioneers in the country now. They are only at the level of Ghost Axe 1 star now. Rounding off, we are just second to the national team. Does the national team also only have Ghost Axe 1 star? Fang Yi was thoughtful. He tried to ask a few more questions and found that the other party really knew everything and felt very sincere. Nickname YTUGG72. By the way, it's also gossip. I found a special place here. There should be a world change. Do you want to go with me? If possible, we can team up in the future. Fang Yi thought for a moment. Fan, okay, send me the address. World change. He really needs this kind of information. Now many pioneers are constantly collecting world changes everywhere. They are the beneficiaries of the times and are eager to get more benefits from it. When the pioneers come into contact with this kind of change, whether it is natural treasures or attribute weapons, they can correspondingly enhance their strength. Then, nickname YTUGG72 sent a piece of information. It turned out to be a compressed package. It not only contains detailed addresses and pictures, but also a 5,000-word analysis and speculation essay. It analyzes the local landforms, historical causes, and changes in detail, and then suddenly turns to the topic of the changes in the world, and then concludes that there are definitely treasures in it. Fang Yi clicks on the photo to check it out. What comes into view is a dark underground river. Not long ago, it suddenly burned inexplicably and turned into underground magma. There is no doubt that this is the work of the changes in the world. The red-gold lava rushed in the black rock tunnel and merged into a blazing fire dragon. The fire was bright and dazzling, but the golden dots contained in it, like the fragmented starlight reflecting the sun, sandwiched in the red fire dragon, are very eye-catching. It has the same yang attribute as mine. Fang Yi saw the specialness of this phenomenon at a glance. It seems that he will gain a lot on this trip. The next day, Tai City, Binmu District, a clearing in the forest. There is a stone door on the rock wall of the mountain on the side, and the gap in the door emits a hot wave. A group of men and women stood in front of the door, all of them looked young. Each of them was a pioneer with attributes, and the strongest was Guofu Yisheng. At this time, they surrounded a girl, who was wearing a white mountaineering suit, and several people were vaguely following her. This person was called Zhang Xiaoya, the maker of the compressed package, and the first person to find this underground magma. In addition, she had a hidden identity. Not long ago, she successfully joined the Spiritual Qi Shushan Association and became a formal employee. Few people knew that the Spiritual Qi Shushan Association was actually an official department of Xia country, and the threshold for recruiting people was very high. Ordinary pioneers couldn't even find a way. Zhang Xiaoya was able to successfully join, and she had to have money and owed a lot of favors. The map shared by Xiaoya is really detailed. I found it as soon as I arrived, and it didn't take any effort at all. Someone next to her got closer to Zhang Xiaoya. Zhang Xiaoya smiled faintly and said, "Thank you for coming and exploring this underground river with me. When we go in, we have to take care of each other." Of course, of course. As everyone was talking, a man with a mustache kept checking his phone, as if he was waiting for someone. "Lao Li, when will the friend you mentioned come?" "Almost there, didn't he say 10 o'clock? There are still 2 minutes to go." Lao Li glanced at his phone while speaking. A short and fat man with a flat head next to him poked his arm. "Is the netizen you mentioned real or fake? I haven't even met him in person, is he reliable?" "I don't know, there are still 5 minutes, wait a minute," Lao Li said, and sent a message on his phone. "Nickname YTUGG72, are you here? We're waiting for you at the door, and you can see us as soon as you come." Zhang Xiaoya took in their behavior and shook her head slightly in her heart. When she came, she also wanted to see if there were any outstanding pioneers, and she could help introduce them. Now it seems that we should forget it. "Hey, he's coming." Old Li raised his head suddenly and waved in one direction. Everyone looked at him. A figure slowly walked out of the forest. A tall young man, who looked no more than 20 years old, with a tang sword on his waist, looked very imposing. He walked slowly and came to the door. The time on his mobile phone was exactly 10 o'clock, no more and no less. "You are Brother Fan." Old Li glanced at him. Why is he younger than he thought? He thought that the other parties should be about the same age as him, although they were both in their 30s. "Is your system nickname?" Fang Yi smiled faintly and greeted him. Then he took the initiative to stand aside and said nothing. "Haha, from this point of view, everyone is an I person with a more introverted personality, unlike me, an E person, an old social terrorist." The short and fat flat-headed man at the beginning jumped out to make peace. He looked happy, with wrinkles all over his face when he smiled, and he looked like a person who always smiles. Zhang Xiaoya couldn't help but look at Fang Yi a few more times. She realized that the other party was quite capable, but unfortunately his personality was quite cold, so she didn't say a few more words to get close to him. "Now that everyone is here, let's get ready to go down." Zhang Xiaoya slowly pushed open the stone door. Boom! The stone door opened, and a golden light shone out. As the gap became larger and larger, the turbid waves inside also emptied out. Everyone was sweating profusely because of the heat. But their expressions revealed a kind of enthusiasm. A new era is coming, and this is their opportunity. Zhang Xiaoya's fingers trembled with excitement. Whether it is an opportunity or a danger, success or failure depends on this one move. And Fang Yi just looked up at the golden light. It is indeed a Yang attribute. Let's go. The underground river, also known as the undercurrent, is located in the cave. Many caves will grow stalagmites, stone pillars, stone curtains, and stone flowers along with the river, which are magnificent and bizarre. From the analysis and pictures provided by the compressed package, this underground river is also the same. It should be an irregular tree-like figure inside, and the length is not short. After entering, the vision suddenly darkened. Someone turned on the flashlight, illuminating a rugged road with rocky cliffs on the side. The feeling of entering the cave was like being locked in a secret room, which would make people feel uncomfortable. "Who's going to go in front?" Zhang Xiaoya asked. Lao Li and the flat-headed man looked at each other, as if their mouths were sewn shut. "Let me do it," Fang Yi, who had been silent all the time, spoke. He passed Zhang Xiaoya, who was holding a flashlight, and walked to the front of the team. His back looked strong and full of security. "I'll light the light, and I'll walk behind you. You two can divide it up," Zhang Xiaoya said without looking back. A team was formed in this way, with Lao Li walking at the back, and he was the only one left. While Zhang Xiaoya carefully illuminated the road, she couldn't help but cast her eyes behind Fang Yi. She felt that this guy was very mysterious from the beginning. It's not that he keeps silent and pretends to be aloof, but the mysteriousness revealed from his temperament. Zhang Xiaoya has also seen many pioneers, but most of them have a sense of superiority, but the one in front of her doesn't have it, and she didn't feel anything. Inexplicably, she vaguely felt a very warm atmosphere, very contradictory. Brother Fan, walk slowly, be careful of the gravel under your feet. Walk a little inside, it seems that water will drip on the left, and several drops have dripped on my head. Are you tired? If you are thirsty, tell me, I have mineral water in my bag. From time to time, a few shouts came from behind. Occasionally, several people would chat for a few words, but most of the time it was the three of them talking, and Feng Yi was the only one listening. In this team, Feng Yi is a latecomer, but from the attitude of those people treating him equally, they regard Feng Yi as their own. Familiar, honest man. Feng Yi now understands the urgency of the nickname YTUGG72 on the internet. They obviously really want to find a few reliable teammates in this uncertain era in the future. Very real. We're almost there. Feng Yi, who was walking in front, suddenly spoke. Ah, it's magma. Zhang Xiaoya shouted in surprise. Several people have arrived at the bank of the underground river. The scene in front of them is more convincing than the photo. The dark corridor is like a tunnel dug from deep underground, with red and surging magma flowing in it, emitting billowing white steam. As the magma flows, it hits the cliffs, making the sound of waves hitting the shore. It's really magma. There is real magma flowing in this underground river. It looks too weird. If you post it, others will praise you for your photo editing skills. Do you feel hot? It's so strange. It feels a little hot but not very hot. Now that you mention it, our clothes are indeed soaked all the way, but this is a normal phenomenon in summer. Should it be like this next to the magma? Everyone was talking at once. Feng Yi had already squatted down and put his hand directly into the magma. The rolling magma instantly submerged the hand. Everyone was instantly shocked. Brother, you are playing like this, you are going to die. That is magma, you just touch it with your hand. Zhang Xiaoya's breathing became rapid. Old Li next to him immediately tried to grab Feng Yi's arm, but the next second, he saw the instigator raise his hand from inside. The palm was smooth, without a trace of burns. Feng Yi said, "It's not hot, this magma is very special." As soon as the voice fell, he put his hand into the magma again, deeper than last time, and felt a burning sensation. The fire snake licked his fingertips, causing a tingling sensation on his fingertips. It's cool outside, but hot inside. It seems like the flames are really burning in the water. Feng Yi was thinking. Suddenly, he felt a huge crisis. Feng Yi reacted very quickly and quickly withdrew his hand without hesitation. Bang! The next second, the place where he had just stretched out his hand suddenly exploded, bursting into dazzling flames, and instantly burned into a raging fire. A pressing heat wave rushed over. The magma met the air, making a deafening roar, the lava splashed, burning everything into mortar, and the flames danced like a dragon. At this moment, it seemed as if the ground was roaring in anger. What happened? Everyone stepped back a few steps, still in shock. They were almost affected by the explosion. Once they were touched, their heads would be blown off directly. Feng Yi also stepped back. Looking at the remaining sparks of the explosion in the air, various source codes flashed in his eyes. Detected the strange phenomenon of heaven and earth, internal flame, being analyzed. Starting the ultimate computing power, writing. You have obtained. Red fire sword technique. Internal flame template material. Internal high temperature, carrying explosive attributes, amazing destructive power. Red fire sword technique. Unlike the golden sun breathing method, you need to draw the sword to glimpse its true power. Every sword is roaring with flames, and every sword is the power of blazing flames. When using this sword technique, a layer of blazing fire will be covered on the blade, and every swing of the sword is a blazing lightning. The flames condensed on the tip of the sword will be detonated by the fighting spirit. At that moment, the energy released by the red flame is comparable to the scorching sun. Feng Yi's eyes are burning. This red fire sword technique just complements my Tang sword. It happens that I can give this internal flame attribute to this Tang sword, and the power will be doubled. Do you want to consume the writing points to implant the internal flame attribute into this thing? Yes, in a moment. Thousands of red lights poured into the tang sword beside him, and tiny cracks appeared on the blade inside the scabbard, and hot bubbles kept coming out from the blade like bubbles. With the injection of internal flames, the surface of the sword began to ripple with flame patterns, and the flames kept surging, making a hissing burning sound. A bright light flashed across the handle, and the center of the blade seemed to be able to cut a blasting flame at any time. The flames would explode instantly and ignite the surrounding air. An extremely explosive attack technique. The higher the realm, the stronger the explosion. The power of this sword technique used by the strong is no less than the resurrection of natural disasters. A real explosion, destroying a city is no problem. Very violent. Fang Yi felt the temperature of the tang sword and smiled. I like it. He just needed this thing. I feel it. I feel it too. The flat-headed man showed a surprised look. I feel that I only need to practice a little bit now, and I can officially embark on the path of cultivation. The others had been sitting cross-legged on the ground without knowing when, and just felt the fluctuations of recovery, and needed to hurry up to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Everyone is a pioneer, with equal abilities, and the competition is about who can make faster progress. Fang Yi was not in a hurry to practice. This time, he has obtained something more precious. Suddenly, he heard a series of strange noises. The sound was not loud, and the three people who were practicing did not hear it, but the sound seemed to be getting closer and closer to them. Fang Yi carefully identified the direction and said lightly, "It seems that we are not the only ones who have discovered this place." Outside the stone forest, there were a few more people on the original open space, each with a restrained aura, and they were obviously pioneers of the spiritual energy revival. At this moment, they were standing outside the stone gate, comparing the map on their mobile phones. The world has changed drastically, and strange phenomena are everywhere. We have to go in quickly to avoid being preempted by others. The strange phenomenon should be below. I can feel that special fluctuation. Let's go. Every opportunity before the spiritual energy revival is valuable. Don't delay. Boom. A sharp explosion suddenly broke out from the ground. Heat waves poured out from the stone gate, as if a sun melted below, and the explosion sounded like thunder. A red wave rushed out of the ground like a snake. Everyone's pupils suddenly contracted. What a powerful fluctuation. It came from underground. Could it be that the place of great change was taken by someone first? They looked at each other and immediately got into the stone gate. When several people arrived, they saw a person sitting cross-legged from a distance, absorbing spiritual energy for practice. Immediately, the faces of several people turned cold and unfriendly. In this era, there are often fights between pioneers for the location of the great changes in the world. The great changes in the world will involve the extraordinary in every place, and every point may bring good fortune to oneself. In front of such natural treasures, the fewer people sharing, the better. But now, two groups of people appeared in this underground dark river, just like beasts fighting for territory, and the two sides were full of hostility. What's more terrible is that, as the number of people in the dark river increased, the internal inflammation inside began to be restless. The spiritual energy generated by the mutation is limited, and it will generally collapse after reaching the maximum number of people. Fighting for the location is also a compulsory course for the pioneers. And this time, both groups have set their sights on the same place. The atmosphere was tense for a while. You want to come too? This is the place we found first. My friend has already started to absorb the spiritual energy. Brother, why don't you go somewhere else? The flat-headed man stood up and stood beside Fang Yi and Lao Li, who was absorbing the spiritual energy. Who is your buddy? A waste who has not yet entered the Ghost Axe realm. Is he worthy of being called a brother to us? The pioneer on the opposite side smiled contemptuously and took the first step forward. The aura emanating from him was that of a one-star Ghost Axe realm. Afterwards, another person followed him out. He was tall and strong. Standing there, he was like a wall, and he looked very imposing. He was also a one-star Ghost Axe realm. The flat-headed man's face changed. In their team, only Zhang Xiaoya was a one-star. He and Lao Li had not yet entered the Ghost Axe realm, and Fang Yi was a newcomer. He didn't know much, so his strength was probably not that high. Now the enemy is strong and we are weak, and the gap is huge. In this case, no matter how sharp your words are, they are not as hard as fists. Understand. Why don't you get out? The one-star pioneer sneered, and walked straight towards the underground magma without even looking at them. Obviously, he didn't take this group of people seriously. Zhang Xiaoya was so angry that she was shaking all over. The other side had 2 pioneers of the Ghost Axe realm with 1 star, and their strength was not weaker than hers. They were not something they could afford to provoke. Survival of the fittest, the strong prey on the weak. This is the iron law of nature. Under the premise of the revival of spiritual energy, the pioneers are like the group of animals that control the powerful power and authority. The head king does not rely on humility, but on the number of corpses torn under his feet. That is more straightforward than any throne or crown. Weak pioneers do not deserve to have the resources to become stronger. Zhang Xiaoya bit her lips lightly with her teeth. She took a step forward and was about to open her mouth to refute. At this time, a figure moved before her. Fang Yi took a step and took the initiative to stand between the 2 teams. The evening breeze gradually rose. His hair was flying. There seemed to be golden light all over his body, but it seemed like an illusion when he looked closely. At this moment, Fang Yi raised his palm slightly, tilted his head and reached behind him, touching the bandage wrapped around him. Suddenly, he exerted force with his 5 fingers and grasped the bandage above, and a blazing fire lit up from between his fingers. It was brighter than the stars in the night sky, and thicker than the cumulus clouds in the sky. It was like a scorching sun falling, and the object in it was held in Fang Yi's hand. The bandage wrapped around it melted and shattered the moment the fire appeared. A knife. The pioneers were stunned. He seemed to see the outline of a knife handle from the fire that Fang Yi gradually pulled out. Fang Yi raised his hand slightly. From the blazing fire, he held the knife handle with one hand and slowly pulled out a narrow tang knife. Red fire tang knife. Why does this knife look so strange? The eyes on the opposite side shrank slightly, and they looked at the narrow tang knife in Fang Yi's hand in astonishment. Rippling patterns appeared on the surface of the knife. At this moment, he actually had an extremely dazzling illusion, as if he was looking directly at the sun. Clang! The tang sword was trembling, and a layer of dancing flames was attached to the blade. Fang Yi held the sword in an oblique position, with the tip of the sword lightly hanging on the ground. The raging fire was like mercury pouring down the ground, spreading along the blade to the surface of the ground. In just 0.1 seconds, the ground was charred into charcoal. In an instant, the scorching air wave rushed towards him. The pupils of the 1-star pioneer in the Ghost Axe realm shrank suddenly. Back off, he shouted, his voice like thunder. Buzz. He didn't need to remind him. As the hot wind surged, everyone's toes were already retreating rapidly. At a very fast speed, they retreated to the border of the dark river in an instant. Almost at the same time as they retreated, Fang Yi raised the tang sword and slashed at the magma dark river. Boom! At this moment, no other sounds or movements could be heard by the ears. In the dark cave, there was only a pillar of fire rising to the sky. A blazing pillar of fire penetrated through, brilliant and blazing, illuminating the entire dark cave, becoming the only immortal flame in the darkness. Rumble. The ground rubble fell apart, the red light burned through the open space, the entire ground seemed to be burning, and turned into a red line. What is this? Zhang Xiaoya was shocked. What kind of scene is this? She was wondering whether the cave would be directly cut down by this knife. At the same time, Fang Yi turned his wrist, and the blade fell vertically to the ground. Between heaven and earth, all the overflowing fire was concentrated at one point, like a soaring fire dragon, heading towards the dark river. Boom! At this moment, the magma rolled, rolling up bubbles one after another, and then all these bubbles burst again, making a blasting sound. A ball of red energy emerged from the magma, and the energy gathered crazily into a ball of expanding red sun, which exploded in front of everyone. Bang! Red fire and explosion intertwined. The terrifying air wave brushed past, as if it could burn people. Get out! In the splashing firelight, Fang Yi's eyes under his black hair narrowed slightly, looking at the figures on the opposite side. The pioneers on the opposite side widened their eyes, and the red firelight reflected in their pupils also illuminated their horrified expressions. What realm is this pioneer? And this knife? The flame pattern on the blade is dazzling and burning, and after swinging it out, it will explode twice. It's like a big sun. It's so scary. Several pioneers suddenly felt weak in their legs. They turned around one after another and fled in the direction they came from, with their backs neatly running away. The pioneer team fled in panic. They crawled out of the underground cave and came to the outside. At the stone gate, one person's lips were pale and trembling, his eyes were full of fear, and he said in a trembling voice, "It's terrible, that guy just now was so terrible, what weapon was in his hand? I have never seen such a terrible weapon. The sudden high temperature in the cave just now made me feel like I was almost melted." There were flame patterns on his knife, and when he pulled it out, even the wrapped cloth was burned. When that knife was swung down, the ground became a vast scorched earth. Even the earth can't hold it, let alone us mortals. Has such a terrifying person appeared among the pioneers? He is also a pioneer, but his strength is far higher than ours. This group of pioneers talked to each other, and the conversation was full of shock and fear. The pioneers were originally the pride of this era. If the world has luck, then the luck must fall on them, the pioneers. But after seeing the scene just now, their sharp tongues all disappeared. The huge gap in strength made people unable to have any resistance. Fortunately, we did not clash with them. If he had chopped me with that knife, I would have died on the spot, not even lingering breath, because the gap between him and me is so big. Too scary. This is the first time I have seen such a powerful pioneer. Such a person must not be offended. Running away is not because of cowardice. We are right to run away. The future of spiritual energy revival is unknown, but it can be expected that it must be a brilliant era. We pioneers all have unique conditions, but now, all of this is under the water. The protection for the pioneers has not been clarified. Once you offend that kind of strong man, it is normal to be killed directly. Several people looked at each other and let out a long sigh. Can't help but feel a little scared. Compared with ordinary people, they are in a more difficult situation for weak pioneers with some strength but not much. If they accidentally provoke the big boss, then today they will be 3 pounds with the box. We admit defeat. We have to give up this land first. The one who stood out first made the decision. The others all nodded. They would rather spend more time looking for other places where the world has changed than go back to face the strange Tang sword that can burn everything. Underground cave. The air was strange in silence. Flathead Brother was the first to come back to his senses. He stared at Fang Yi in a daze and squeezed out a thumbs up for a long time. "Brother, awesome. That knife was so cool. There are still traces of scorched earth on the ground, and there is a burning smell in the nose. Everything shows that the scene just now was real. The flame pattern on the knife, the burnt cloth strips, and the splashing magma. Everything is shocking. The raging heat wave seemed to pass by their faces, and the scorching air wave burned their cheeks so much that they were still red. What a terrible knife." Zhang Xiaoya covered her hot face. Her hair was swept by the heat wave, and in an instant, a piece of it was broken. After the broken hair fell to the ground, it burned into ashes in a second, so fast that it was outrageous. If the knife was swung at them, then there would only be a few charred corpses here now. As a ghost axe star, she was a little complacent. But now, all her pride was shattered by this knife. With one knife, how many pioneers' dreams of being a genius were cut off? What happened? What's wrong with this floor? Did a volcano erupt just now? At this time, Lao Li, who had just recovered from the state of absorbing spiritual energy and meditating, screamed. When he opened his eyes, he saw a huge scorch crack on the ground. Right under his crotch, it was still emitting white-hot steam. He was almost scared to death. Lao Li immediately got up from the ground. Seeing that the other people all looked strange, he poked the flat-headed man. "What's going on here? Are you in danger? Tell me." The flat-headed man murmured, "Us. I feel more dangerous now." "Lao Li, what the hell are you talking about? Are you burned?" Seeing the flat-headed man looking like a madman, he frowned and asked Zhang Xiaoya. "Xiaoya, what happened just now?" Zhang Xiaoya glanced at him and said, "You are lucky. You can meet a big guy by surfing the internet." Lao Li. "Riddler, get out of Gotham." Zhang Xiaoya ignored him and glanced at Fang Yi secretly. This is definitely a pioneer with high attributes. High attributes are above all attributes, and they are all super geniuses with top talents. They are extremely rare. You must find a chance to report to the organization. Lao Li still couldn't get the answer after all. He noticed with his sharp eyes that the knife wrapped with cloth strips behind Fang Yi was exposed. The cloth strips were still good when he was meditating before. Brother Fan, where is your cloth strip? It must be burned. Fang Yi glanced behind him casually. Oh, the temperature here is too high. If you accidentally touch the lava, your pants will be burned. You know, when I just opened my eyes, I found a long scorch seam under my crotch. I was scared to death. I guess the lava melted the floor. What do you think? I think what you said makes sense. Quote. The flat-headed man behind him was speechless and pulled Lao Li's sleeve. Lao Li turned around and shouted, "What are you doing?" The flat-headed man didn't say anything, but glanced at Fang Yi and blinked wildly. Lao Li looked puzzled. What's wrong, are you cramping? The four continued to explore deeper into the cave. This underground lava river is not long, and it took 10 minutes to reach the end. In addition to the lava, there are no other strange phenomena in the cave. It seems that this lava river is the biggest opportunity. Lao Li did feel a lot of spiritual energy from the heaven and earth here, and he will be able to enter the Ghost Axe realm in time. Returning to the original path and coming to the cave entrance, the figure of the pedestrian was no longer in front of the stone door, so Fang Yi said goodbye to them. Brother Fan, you didn't get any benefit this time. Come on next time. We'll give you the good stuff first. You're the youngest, so you should take care of us. Old Li patted Fang Yi's shoulder familiarly. Fang Yi smiled. Then thank you first. He did gain a lot from this trip, but he didn't need to tell anyone about it. The flat-headed man looked at the hand that old Li had patted on Fang Yi, and his eyes almost popped out. Then I'll leave first. Yeah, see you next time. Let's discuss more if you have anything. Fang Yi turned around and waved with his back to them. The flat-headed man had been holding it in all the way, and finally found a chance to confront old Li. Do you know who you just patted? What? The flat-headed man told Fang Yi about helping him scare off another pioneer team with a knife. Old Li's eyes were stunned at first, and then he was petrified. It seemed that he was shocked. I'll leave first, I have something else to do. Zhang Xiaoya said. She had to report to the Spiritual Association about this high-level pioneer. The few people separated. Zhang Xiaoya got in the car and called the specialist of the Spiritual Association. Pioneers like them all rely on specialists to contact the Spiritual Association. When the other party answered, Zhang Xiaoya reported what she saw. I guess that is a high-level pioneer with high talent. Another high level, the other party whispered. What? Zhang Xiaoya didn't hear clearly. Nothing, it has been recorded. Please notify me as soon as there is any progress. After hanging up the phone, the female specialist sitting in the office looked puzzled. She lowered her head and glanced at the report record of another pioneer, Su Qingying. Oh my God, what happened? Did the association hit the jackpot? 2 high-level pioneers appeared in a row. All those adults with high attributes are of noble status and are highly valued by the country. Now they are all high-ranking people in the power center. In the evening, the sky was covered with clouds of fire, which turned half the sky red and was magnificent. Among the countless people taking photos, Fang Yi walked slowly, and the scabbard on his back attracted some surprised gazes. Is that a fake knife? It looks so real. It's cosplay. It feels so imposing to carry it on my back, and it feels like a flowing blade. Back home, Fang Yi took off his shoes, put on slippers and walked into the room, and took off the knife on his back as soon as possible. The knife was added with a new, internal flame, a tribute in the cave. Now, before the knife is unsheathed, the surging hot internal breath can be felt. The extreme temperature of the blade can reach 2000. Moreover, the special attribute attached to the internal flame can explode. This is definitely an extremely powerful ability. Fang Yi gently wiped the blade with a dry cloth. Thinking of this, he suddenly remembered the pioneer team he met today. Although there are 2 one-star pioneers on the opposite side, they look very weak and are not strong enough for me to fight. Even if I am not a 2-star, but only 1 star like them, I am absolutely sure that I can easily defeat them. Fang Yi murmured. It's not that he is conceited, but the opponent's strength is indeed a big gap. The golden sun breathing method makes me far better than others in the same realm, not to mention the opponent's realm is lower than mine. In this era where everyone is moving forward in the dark, not everyone can have a profound practice method like me. Fang Yi felt slightly excited. These will undoubtedly allow him to gain a firm foothold in the future era of spiritual energy revival, and even stand out. This feeling is still very refreshing. This improvement is very good. Fang Yi's gains in the Dark River are not limited to internal flame and red fire sword technique. Above the Dark River, he also operated the Golden Sun breathing method. The Golden Sun breathing method can amplify the absorption effect of underground magma, a phenomenon of Yang sub-attribute, by 10 times. Old Li sat there meditating for half an hour, absorbing less than 10% of the spiritual energy. The remaining 90% was all absorbed by Fang Yi. The human body can only hold a limited amount of spiritual energy. Even at the Ghost Axe realm, this is the maximum that Fang Yi can absorb. But the good news is that after this absorption, he has already felt the fluctuations in his body, and he is about to break through the 3rd level. If I run it again, I should be able to break through 3 stars directly. Fang Yi went to the back mountain, found a secluded place, and sank his consciousness. The gilded halo was entangled, and the ghost axe flowing with magma appeared in front of him, with a tendency to slowly swing down. Fang Yi concentrated and began to control the spiritual energy. In another place in the back mountain, a figure came out of the bushes and wiped his sweat. Finally done. Su Qingying was disheveled. All day today, she was in this back mountain to clean up the butt of the Yang-attributed pioneer. Suddenly, her pretty face changed. She raised her eyes in horror. Is someone going to break through to the 3 stars of the Ghost Axe realm? She vaguely felt a torrent of blazing warmth. A violent aura like thunder was slowly rising. The entire horizon suddenly shone with light, as if it were a miracle. The light covered the entire back mountain, and a terrifying pressure spread in all directions. Buzz. The space made a sound. The blazing clouds in the sky seemed to be a foil to the light, and the light was dim. The light was as grand as the sun, covering countless creatures, shining warmly on the body, making people feel warm and hot in their hearts. Is this a breakthrough to 3 stars? Can the Ghost Axe realm really cause such a big commotion? His future, what kind of terrifying level can it reach? Su Qingying had never seen such a grand breakthrough scene. In her heart, this level is no longer just a demon, but more like a step towards the path of God. Boom! The terrible pressure of the God Axe was like a mountain pressing down on Su Qingying. Su Qingying could feel it. The other party was trying to swing the God Axe that symbolized power. The spiritual energy gushed out. The God Axe did not move. But the spiritual energy did not retreat, and it took its time, taking every step steadily. He controls the spiritual energy so precisely. When I failed to break through to 3 stars before, I was bounced back by the pressure of the divine axe. I vomited blood and lay in bed for a week before recovering. But he was so stable. That means that the spiritual energy in his body is not fake, but obtained through real practice. Only when every trace of spiritual energy has been tempered can it achieve this effect. It's hard to imagine. With such a stable supply of spiritual energy, this breakthrough is too easy, right? For a moment, Su Qingying was very envious. For each swing of the breakthrough, abundant spiritual energy is only the most basic. The most difficult thing is to control the divine axe to swing that one swing. Is this a gifted person with high attributes? Even his practice is so much better than ours. Many people are eager to break through as soon as they feel it, but this person gives me the feeling that he breaks through steadily and is not in a hurry for success. This mentality is really sophisticated in the early stage of spiritual energy recovery. The other party must be a very old man, the feeling of a sweeping monk. The divine axe moves. At this moment, Su Qingying stared at the axe in the void with wide eyes, feeling excited. As expected, the axe suddenly moved slightly, swinging down once, twice, 3 times. When it swung to the 3rd time, boom, a ray of light passed through the clouds, illuminating the entire back mountain as if it were daytime. The light was far beyond Su Qingying's cognition, and there was a faint feeling of being unable to suppress it, and the domineering power spread invisibly. The light lasted for a long time before slowly extinguishing. Breakthrough. Su Qingying suddenly noticed the direction of the light. It was at the eastern corner of the back mountain. She immediately stood up and hurriedly flew over there. 3 minutes later, when Su Qingying arrived at the place where the light was, there was only a lonely old tree there, and there was not even a bird next to it. A gust of wind passed, and the leaves swirled past her. It's like this again. Su Qingying was helpless and crazy. It's always like this, always one step late, just one step. She took a step forward angrily and kicked the ancient tree. The innocent ancient tree shook off her leaves, and then was kicked twice more. Su Qingying left angrily with leaves all over her body. However, not long after she left, Feng Yi's figure slowly appeared behind the ancient tree. His eyes fell on Su Qingying's back, watching her figure gradually disappear in front of him, raised his eyebrows and whispered. "Where did you come from? You have been following me since 3 days ago." Having said that, but his expression did not show any shock or anger of being followed. His face was calm, he had already known it. Follow if you want to, it doesn't matter. Anyway, everything is under his control. Su Qingying walked on the small path in the back mountain. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She couldn't help but lightly tap the earphone, along with the commissioner. "I feel like I've been fooled." "Ah," the commissioner looked confused. "Really, how can it be so coincidental? Every time I go, I'm always late. This must be intentional. Last time, the rabbit died, I rushed over, and picked up the body and meat all night. Okay, just consider it as me being late. Last time, I squatted all night, just went out to buy a cup of milk tea, and when I came back, the person was gone. The rest of the day was planting flowers and digging the soil. The traces on the ground made my hands tremble. I feel that farming down the mountain is not as hard as me. This time it's even worse. I saw the light of breakthrough, just 5 seconds, and the person who ran over was gone. Don't you think this is not a trick on me?" Su Qingying's voice was a little broken as she spoke. "Such a bitter life, I don't want to live anymore." The commissioner on the other side was silent after hearing this. She was always fair, and she just thought that what Su Qingying said made sense. How could such a coincidence happen in the world? In order to appease Su Qingying's emotions, she decided to change the subject and tell her some good news to divert her attention. Okay, don't worry about it for now. In fact, I think it's a good thing that you stay outside to perform tasks recently." Recently, Abnormal appeared. Hearing this, Su Qingying's pupils shrank suddenly, and her expression became solemn. "Abnormal, have they appeared again?" Her voice trembled a little. She will always remember those monsters, which are the dark side flowing in the city. They are evil, weird, and cruel. They hate humans extremely and easily play with human lives. Those monsters often look ugly and cruel. They are not just killing, but they are addicted to killing. They also benefit from the great changes in the world, just like the Forerunners. The only difference is that they are dark and high-level attributes. The image of the abnormal is similar to the monsters in some film and television works. They are often powerful and violent. The last time they appeared, the Spiritual Cultivation Association lost several pioneers. Su Qingying clearly remembered that the abnormal appearance was very ugly and weird. Its body was shrouded in a layer of dark mist, exuding a chilling stench. Its skin was as pale as the dead, covered with cracks and scars, burning with evil. She once looked into the eyes of the abnormal. It was a scarlet pupil flashing with endless darkness and fierceness, as if it could devour a person's soul. The behavior of the abnormal was extremely brutal. It did not just kill simply, but enjoyed the pleasure of killing. Therefore, when the abnormal appeared, the surroundings were always filled with bloody breath, and the wailing and bone-breaking sounds were intertwined, enough to form a horrible symphony of death. The appearance of the word abnormal represented endless pain and despair. It was a dark nightmare that made Su Qingying unable to sleep well for a month. The commissioner noticed Su Qingying's silence and comforted her. "It's okay. It's a good thing that you stay outside. At least you don't have to face the abnormality, but you have to be careful, because those things, I don't know where they are hiding." Su Qingying's eyelashes trembled. "I know, thank you." Not long after, a light rain fell from the sky. The rain gradually got heavier. Soon, the rain rushed in the sky like thousands of troops, and the water droplets like silver threads wove a blurred picture, blurring the distant scenery and drowning out all the sounds. Occasionally, a dazzling lightning would pierce the night sky, and thunder would explode, as if the heart of the earth was roaring. In front of the window sill, Feng Yi stared outside quietly. Observing this violent natural scene, His eyes were deep and his hair was flying. Was thunder so scary before? Who is the great man who is overcoming the tribulation? A hot search was pushed to the top. The video accompanying this sentence was exactly what Fang Yi saw. The replies below were refreshing every second. Brother, you've lived a lot, but this celestial phenomenon is really not normal. The noise is too outrageous. Is there anyone who claims it? If you dare to say it, I will believe it. My 80-year-old grandfather said that this is the thickest thunder he has seen since he was born. He is very scared now and said that this is the anger of the thunder god. In order to break his feudal superstition, I told him that this year is the end of the world and we all have to die today. Just now, he fainted because of extreme fear. Now he was sent to the hospital for rescue by 120 family members. Am I doing it right? The upstairs is so filial. The upstairs is really a filial son. If your grandfather really dies today, he will crawl out of the grave on the day of burial to give you a big cunt. The painting style gradually shifted. Fang Yi's eyes left the phone. Boom. At this moment, a thunder so big that it was exaggerated suddenly climbed up the sky, and the terrible sound made the cars on the street start to roar. Fang Yi tapped the glass lightly with his fingers. A guess slowly emerged in his mind. Such a strong thunder attribute, violent and majestic. Maybe, this is a new world change. Just as the thought came to his mind, a text message came on the phone. Warm reminder from the weather forecast of Xiaoguo, the current thunderstorm is dangerous on the road, please do not go out. This text message seemed to be a reassurance. Fang Yi smiled slightly and made up his mind immediately. He walked towards the door. On the clothes drying rack at the door hung a waterproof black coat, which he had prepared long ago. The coat was precisely cut and had neat lines, outlining his slender figure and flashing a slight luster. The black cloth strips that bound him were not bought for the time being, so he abandoned the cloth strips, hung the tang sword on his waist, and used the coat to cover the shape of the sword. After he was ready, he pushed open the door and stepped into the dark and rainy night. Boom! Thunder and lightning climbed in the sky, making a deafening sound, as if the whole world was trembling. It was like an angry god descending to the earth, with a mighty force like a mountain or a sea, making people feel an irresistible fear. In the flash of lightning, it seemed as if one could see the angry eyes of the god of thunder, burning with endless anger, about to turn everything into ashes. The text message was too conservative. In this kind of weather, it is not recommended not to go out, but that one dare not go out at all. The horror of this thunder lies in the terrifying sense of oppression, which is the deep fear of natural disasters engraved in the bones of living beings. In front of thunder, they seem so small, as insignificant as ants. Boom! Thunder and lightning fell from the sky and landed somewhere in the back mountain. In this earth-shaking sound, many people saw this scene. Oh my God! What is that? Was it struck by lightning? Luckily it was in the back hills, not in the residential area, but it's still too scary. Did you see the lightning that just struck? It was thicker than a python and struck straight down. I guess the old tree in the back hills that 3 people hugged is going to be destroyed. Yuhuang Peak, foot of the mountain. In the endless night, the ground was flooded with rain, thunder roared in the darkness, and the whole barren mountain was shaking in the thunder. The huge thunder above the head appeared and disappeared, roaring like a giant. Suddenly, thunders fell one after another. The broken temple on the mountain was instantly shattered, the walls cracked, the load-bearing columns collapsed, the statues fell from the high platform, and smashed to pieces in the rain, as if the whole world was collapsing, to welcome the arrival of the thunder god. Since ancient times, the power of thunder has been a symbol of the strongest and purest. The fantasy thunder tribulation and the ancient mythological heavenly punishment are all inseparable from thunder. The power of heaven is mighty, and the thunder god has issued a pardon. Thunder is in charge of divine punishment, punishing evil and eliminating evil. Tyranny is endless. Every thunder carries an innate tyranny factor. Such thunder, even Fang Yi, who has forged a magic axe, dare not touch it easily. When the feast of thunder and rain reached its climax, the strong wind crossed the mountainside, sweeping everything on the road like a black river. The rainstorm was raging, and the thunder exploded. The man in the black windbreaker stood there, his golden eyes shining fiercely, piercing the white mist. Fang Yi raised his head slightly, and the thick thunder in the sky full of tyranny was reflected in his pupils. He felt the grand majesty coming at him, as strong as a hurricane that smashed everything. Not enough, this is not the center of the thunder. The Jade Emperor Peak is 1,545 meters above sea level and covers an area of 25,000 hectares. The foot of the mountain is far from the place closest to the thunder. The closer the distance, the purer the thunder attribute extracted. He wants to go to the center of this storm. If it were other people, the thunder at the foot of the mountain would be enough to tear them apart, even if they hid in a bulletproof car. But Fang Yi has the golden sun breathing method. This is his greatest reliance on facing the thunder. Swish! In an instant, Fang Yi's body was steaming with golden light. The golden sun breathing technique opened and closed along his veins, following the rhythm of his breathing, like scales growing on his body. At this moment, Fang Yi seemed to be the sun monarch who descended here in the dark night and rainstorm. The world changed drastically, evolution and death coexisted. In this era of great change, the brave can always get more rewards. Fang Yi took a firm step forward. Boom! A thick lightning column fell, as if splitting the mountain, splitting the earth under the rain curtain into two. The purple lightning roared and suddenly fell on the body covered with golden light patterns. Fang Yi let out a low roar from his throat and stepped out again. The thunder responded and rushed towards the figure again. The next moment, Fang Yi was swallowed by the purple lightning. He was wrapped in thunder, and the thunder surged and crawled all over his body from top to bottom. He was like a god of thunder materialized in the rainstorm, and every move was a divine punishment. Fang Yi's body shook. A panting voice sounded. Even though I have the golden sun breathing technique to protect me, this violent thunder that symbolizes divine punishment hits me, and my body still can't bear it. The lightning in the storm cloud was like thousands of troops and thousands of arrows fired at his body. Fang Yi felt pain all over his body. The thunder struck 100 meters of lightning above his head, and the human eye could only see its shadow. The lightning pierced Fang Yi's body, and the body under the golden light began to show a state of melting and burning. Huge rubble was shattered and splashed, and the hotels and inns on the mountain were also shattered in the thunder. Hundreds of years of human experience in construction could not stop the thunder for a moment. Everything was exploding and shattering, except for the figure in the middle. The lightning drew arcs in the air and struck him, as if it would never end. Fang Yi touched his ears with his hands. The thunder blocked his hearing, and his world was silent, with only thunder and lightning in patches, and everything around him was destroyed by the thunder. This is a great change of heaven and earth, this is the destruction and rebirth of the times. The pioneers are against the will of heaven, knowing that it is impossible to do it. Seeking a glimmer of hope for mankind in this ever-changing heaven. Others stayed away from this thunder-restricted area, only Fang Yi walked towards the center step by step. Fang Yi kept walking, and the more he walked, the more pressure he felt on his body. He had to use the golden sun breathing method to resist. Especially when he walked within 10 steps of the lightning. It seemed that the whole world was pressing on him, and every bone and muscle in his body was trembling. Fang Yi took a step forward. Boom! The sound of thunder in his ears shook his soul. Another step forward. His veins were exposed and his joints made bursts of popping sounds. The closer he got to the center of the thunder, the more the pressure doubled, and his body became a little hunched. When he walked to the side of the lightning, Fang Yi felt that he was seeing stars, as if his soul had suffered a heavy blow and he almost couldn't stand. The golden light on his body surged, which was a sign that the golden sun breathing method was running to the extreme. The extreme thunder attribute is the tyrannical power of divine punishment. It is constantly putting pressure on me and asking me to bow my head. The thunder wants everyone to crawl at his feet to show its power and majesty. Fang Yi's neck veins were bulging. Under the huge pressure, he stood up and looked up at the thunder in the sky. The joints all over his body were cracked and popped, but his expression was still calm, and his figure was as straight as a gun. 10,000 hectares of thunder fell, and Fang Yi clenched his teeth. He calmly stared into the depths of Yunchang, his voice cold and hair-raising. I want you to be used by me. The golden sun breathing method was fully activated. Not enough, come again. Boom! The sky was covered with dark clouds, and lightning and thunder roared. The divine thunder in the sky struck him, but was merged by the golden light. Powerful thunder attribute detected. Writing in progress. Divine thunder refining. Invoke the sky thunder, temper the body, and the body becomes a god. Closing square bracket. Feng Yi let the thunderstorm come, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. After the system prompt sounded, a purple lightning merged into Feng Yi's body. The purple lightning pierced the sky, as if the thunder god himself was here. The thunder penetrated into the blood filled with Jin-yang, purple and gold intertwined, and the purple and gold light shone brightly. Divine thunder, enter the body. The ancient practitioners were full of spiritual energy and perfected their skills. Each of them was a great power that could reach the sky and penetrate the earth. It was said that their bodies were as big as mountains, and each of them was a powerful immortal being. What's more, thunder itself is a powerful high-level attribute that focuses on attack. Unlike the yang attribute, the body tempered by thunder is originally an extremely powerful and terrifying spear. Indestructible. The thunder attribute can temper my body to be more powerful, and turn it into thunder, which is both full of powerful offensiveness and top-level defense. After tempering the high-level attribute that focuses on attack, other attributes are difficult to break through. Thunder is both my spear and my shield. This is the domineering nature of the thunder attribute. Feng Yi smiled enthusiastically. Those who control thunder are all powerful super monsters. These monsters have powerful means of attack, but many people overlook one point. The defense of the thunder attribute owner is definitely not weak. The thunder attribute is the sharpest attack attribute in the world. How can a body that carries the thunder attribute for a long time be defeated by other attributes? This is the real power of the thunder attribute. Attack and defense in one, temper yourself, no weaknesses. What happened? Why does the thunder over there keep falling? It hits the same place. This thunder is too weird. If it falls into the city, the consequences will be disastrous. The city defense guards have arrived. They surrounded the thunder area and erected a fence. Looking at the area where the thunder exploded, his eyes widened and his eyes shook. The thunder reflected in his pupils has completely exceeded the worst weather humans have ever seen. Like the Thunder Lord, a natural disaster is coming. A blessing in disguise. This thunder fell on the Jade Emperor Peak. Before it fell, everyone had evacuated, but it was a pity that the remaining temples and buildings on it would be in trouble. But at this moment, a figure in black came down the mountain step by step. Look, what is that? Why does it look like a person? How could he come out of the mountain with such a terrifying thunder? The thunder almost collapsed the mountain. How did he survive? The city defense guards were shocked. They were about to step forward to question him, but they saw the figure stepping on the rain and disappearing in an instant. In the apartment, with a ding, the floor lights came on and the elevator door suddenly opened. A figure wearing a long black windbreaker stepped out. The rain that kept seeping out of the windbreaker dripped on the corridor floor, leaving a long water line. Feng Yi, who returned home, threw the windbreaker into the trash can as soon as possible. My clothes have been torn to pieces by thunder. Feng Yi sat on the sofa. He should have felt tired, but at this moment his body was like a marathon runner who had just finished running. He didn't feel tired, but felt energetic because of the exercise. I still remember that when he first absorbed thunder, his body seemed to fall apart. It was quite painful to absorb it at the time, but after absorbing it, he was very energetic. The thunder attribute is also the strongest and hardest attribute. Compared with the yang attribute, it is good at attacking and not as gentle as the yang attribute, but it is more powerful in battle. Feng Yi closed his eyes and concentrated, and began to practice the divine thunder refining. Strands of thunder and lightning penetrated into his body. He felt the power of thunder wandering freely in his body, as if thousands of thin snakes were dancing in every cell of his body. The power of thunder and lightning is not a simple destruction and destruction, but a mysterious baptism and rebirth. Every strand of thunder and lightning that shuttles between his tendons and meridians is a meticulous polishing and strengthening of every part. Under the tempering of thunder attribute, Feng Yi's body seemed to be placed in a furnace, with sparks flying, but he could not feel pain, only a strange numbness and comfort. Every time his tendons and bones were broken, it was accompanied by an indescribable pleasure. Feeling the body being tempered by thunder and lightning bit by bit. The golden blood gradually permeated with blue-purple light. It can be seen with the naked eye that Feng Yi's body has become more tough and solid, and every inch of skin reveals an indescribable power and mystery. As Feng Yi thought, this thunder attribute is the ultimate spear, born to be the best shield. The body strengthened by thunder attribute is several times stronger than before. If his physical fitness was the strongest after the modification of the golden sun breathing method, then now he has added a lightning attribute to his strength. If he faces a higher attribute as violent as the lightning attribute again, he will not feel as much physical pain as this time when he steps in. If it is a thunderstorm, the effect of cultivation should be better. Feng Yi looked at the rain outside the window and felt a little regretful. After the lightning attribute was introduced into his body, the judgment of heaven and earth also ended. The rain became silk, knocking against the window, and there was no sign of thunder again. Speaking of which, when I stepped into the thunder center to observe the thunder attribute, did it feel a bit like the previous tribulation? The thunder attribute only requires touching the thunder, but the thunder tribulation is hit on the body, and it is often 9,981 times, which is painful to hear. If I was hit by 9,981 times in the thunder center, my body at that time would definitely not be able to withstand it. From this point of view, the Xuanwan great power is still a great power. The thunder tribulation is the recognition of the strong, and it is an unavoidable hurdle on the road of evolution. I wonder if there will be a thunder tribulation for me to overcome when my divine thunder 100 refinements is cultivated to the later stage. Feng Yi is now looking forward to it. He wants to use the sky-wide divine thunder to try his physique reshaped by the divine thunder 100 refinements. Feng Yi checked the thunder attribute template. Pure thunder judgment power, punish all evil things to gain 300% critical damage. It is worthy of the thunder attribute that controls the divine punishment, such a rough critical hit. Feng Yi was secretly amazed. The spiritual energy is revived, and it is not only humans who benefit, but humans are only the weakest among them. A great catastrophe. First of all, the world changes drastically, and then the animals and plants mutate. The rabbit he killed before was of this type. Evil spirits are much more terrifying than these mutated plants and animals. We will have to fight them. In this case, the effect of the thunder attribute is definitely a timely help. Killing the evil spirits will be faster. I wonder if this thunder attribute can be forcibly implanted into the Tang sword. He had an idea. The Tang sword already has the Yang attribute. With the thunder attribute, it will be tougher. But the next second, he gave up this plan. The Tang sword is now full of Yang attributes. If the thunder attribute is added, it will destroy the purity of the Yang attribute. He wanted a weapon with the ultimate Yang attribute. What's more, once too many attributes are injected, the Tang sword may not be able to withstand the force of the attribute conflict. After thinking about it, Feng Yi gave up the idea of implanting the thunder attribute into the Tang sword. Then where should I implant it? Should I buy another sword and go with the double sword style? Just thinking about it, Feng Yi inadvertently lowered his head and his eyes fell on his right hand. Implant it in the right hand. Feng Yi's eyes lit up. The right hand can be used as a means of attack, and there is no need to adapt to carrying a second weapon. Do you want to forcibly implant the thunder attribute into this thing? Yes. Feng Yi did not hesitate. Dense thunder patterns appeared on his palm, and a tingling feeling came. Then, white lightning began to appear in the palm of Feng Yi's hand. Mixed and boiling, terrifying. The powerful tyrannical aura burst out from the palm of his hand, and wisps of lightning flashed, and each wisp of lightning carried the power of judgment. The right hand was covered by the power of thunder, and every inch of skin contained unimaginable electrical energy. He raised his hand casually. A purple arc burst out from the center of his palm, like a dazzling thunder dragon circling up. Thunder rolled around his palm, making a rumbling sound, and each finger could condense deadly lightning. He punched lightly, and a flash of electricity instantly condensed into shape, releasing a dazzling light, illuminating everything around. Sizzling, carrying extremely powerful tyranny and punishment. My right hand can now feel the surge of electricity in the air. Feng Yi said softly. Lightning burst into brilliant light on the palm of his hand, like a blooming thundercloud, emitting strong electricity. Feng Yi can now clearly perceive the difference between his left and right hands. The most obvious thing is that if he meets the rabbit again, he can crush it with his right hand without any effort. The thunder attribute is not afraid of other attributes, and there are only a few attributes that can compete with it. The right hand is equivalent to a small thunder forbidden area. Everything it touches is the power of thunder, and it can also directly confront other attributes. Don't be too domineering. At this moment, Fang Yi, who has been transformed by the thunder attribute, is not an exaggeration to say that he is a human-shaped thunder god. On the other side, the top of Yuhuang Peak. The red alert has been raised in the heavy rain, isolating the ruins after the thunder. A group of uniformed soldiers sneaked silently among the ruins of Yuhuang Peak like ghosts, with firm steps, solemn eyes, high alert and well-trained. The military has been alarmed, and judging from their demeanor and well-trained appearance, they don't look like ordinary soldiers at all. Special forces. Natural disaster. It must be more than that. Is there such a violent thunder in the world? Even if I am 1,000 meters away, I feel the hair on my body stand up. Go, they are looking over here. The onlookers were shocked by the sudden military clearing action. They originally wanted to see the scene after the thunder passed, but were blocked outside by strict precautions. When ordinary people saw this scene, even if they were very curious, they would walk away with their heads down. Some people tried to struggle to get closer. They were pioneers who received the news and were eager to seek opportunities, but they were blocked by the cold and firm eyes of the soldiers. There was a sharp contrast between the inside and outside of the red cordon, as if it was the separation of two worlds. In the dark and rainy night, the mountain was silent. Those who were taken over by the military were all pioneers. They had a strong breath and sharp eyes. It seemed that there was a kind of killing spirit all over the body, which made ordinary people feel great pressure. Sir, the city defense team has news. The members of the city defense team stood in front of the commander, and they did not dare to look directly at the military leader with a terrifying breath. The other party's aura was too strong, and a glance over made people feel a strong sense of oppression. You said, did you see someone coming out from inside? The military commander asked. Although his voice was gentle, every word carried a strong authority, and every look revealed an unchallengeable majesty. The city defense team couldn't help but answer. Yes, sir, when the thunder landed before, we were nearby. The city defense team described the scene they saw in detail. While they were talking, there were still thunders wandering in the sky, like a dragon swimming. Such thunders are definitely a disaster. There are a lot of electric charges in the air, and just getting close to it makes your scalp numb. However, this is not even 1/10,000th of the shock of the thunder just now. It is precisely because of this that the appearance of that figure shocked everyone. What's even more strange is that, when they faced these soldiers, they also felt an amazing breath, exactly the same as the person who walked out of the thunder they saw at that time. After describing the scene at that time, the city defense team members couldn't help asking, Sir, what happened? I feel that Taichung is weird recently. The commander's face was stern. You don't need to ask if you shouldn't ask. You will know when you should know. The city defense team members bowed their heads in awe. Soon, they were taken away, and several soldiers dealt with the mess at the scene in an orderly manner. Han Li stood up, patted the mud on his pants, stood on the top of the mountain, and looked at the center of the thunder. It was originally a temple, but now it has been turned into ruins by thunder. The Buddha statue is half buried in the soil, and the head is rotten. The surrounding hotels and other buildings were not spared. This thunder passed through, leaving nothing behind, only one survivor. The survivor walked out of the blazing thunder in front of 3 people from the city defense team. In this mess, he unexpectedly did not find any clues about him. Another pioneer. This is the 66th pioneer found in Taishi. He walked out of the center of the thunder of Yuhuang Peak, safe and sound. According to others, he was violent. Well, let's temporarily codename him Tyrant. It seems that he got a lot of opportunities from this thunder. The pioneers of this era are either lucky and accidentally hit by opportunities, or they are geniuses with a keen sense of smell. This tyrant looks like he has a purpose and actively contacts the strange phenomenon of the world where spiritual energy is revived. This kind of people is the most terrifying. I don't know which side they are on. If they are harmful to society, the disaster is no less than abnormal. We must start a population census as soon as possible to find him out. The most urgent thing is to block the news first and release some smoke bombs for natural disasters. Han Li suddenly felt irritated, and reached into his pocket to touch the cigarette again, but touched nothing. He frowned. Finally, he slowly dialed a phone call. Fang Yi didn't know. Because of him, many people stayed awake all night. In the apartment, on the sofa, Feng Yi is trying out his thunder right hand. After injecting the thunder attribute, his right hand has obvious changes. Silver-white lightning-shaped tattoos crawled all over the palm and back of his hand. As he gently shook his hand, thunder and lightning surged in his palm. It feels very different to inject the attribute and not inject it. My right hand has become the most indestructible part of my body. The addition of the thunder attribute makes its attack much stronger. What's more, the thunder attribute also has a unique critical strike effect on evil spirits. For evil spirits, it has 300% critical strike damage. In other words, when facing some evil creatures, Feng Yi can swing his hand and slap it out to the point where it is a thunder. Thunder in the palm, continuous critical strikes. It is simply a nightmare for evil spirits. Not only that, these thunders will cause huge damage when attacking evil spirits. If operated properly, it is possible to kill an evil spirit with one slap. Kill an evil creature with one slap. That requires extreme high-level attribute suppression, or sufficient realm suppression, to make this possible, but now, Feng Yi's right hand can reach this height. It can also be regarded as a good killer. Feng Yi smiled at the corners of his lips and clenched his palm. The thunder surging wildly in the palm of his hand, the blazing white light made it impossible to open his eyes. Like an obedient and well-behaved kitten. Now I am also considered the top level among the pioneers, right? Feng Yi returned home and started to check the news as usual. He found out that when the world changes drastically, perhaps to protect the safety of ordinary people, Xiaoguo always issues warnings at the first time. Pioneers can get a glimpse of opportunities from such warnings. An explosion occurred in a chemical plant, and there are no casualties at present. A piece of news attracted Feng Yi's attention. Explosion. Feng Yi was thoughtful. Such things related to explosions are generally not innocent. 99% of them contain some hidden stories behind them. Clicking in, he found that it was an official clarification. An explosion occurred in a chemical plant, causing black smoke to spread and causing urban pollution. The above are all normal phenomena. Please don't panic, and be sure to take care of your own safety. There are also a few pictures posted below the text. From a distance, it was dusk, and a factory similar to a chemical plant exploded, and half of the factory was engulfed in flames. The black light rose into the sky like a huge cloud. Half of the sky was dyed black. It looks terrifying and spectacular. The comment area is also wonderful. Is it really just an explosion? I live nearby, and I also heard the sound when it happened. But to be honest, the feeling was particularly strange, and I don't know how to describe it. A cold and evil atmosphere. Yes, it is cold and evil, and you describe it very accurately. Are the two people upstairs mentally ill? An explosion made you have a cold and evil atmosphere. Could it be that there is something indescribable in it that has revived? Going online and getting crazy. The chemical plant here also exploded. The smell is a bit unpleasant, but the evil is too exaggerated, right? Looking at the picture, it's quite cold, half of the sky is black, which makes me feel very depressed and heavy, and my depression is going to get worse. There are hundreds of floors of replies under this comment. Feng Yi was about to scroll down. Suddenly, a prompt popped up on the screen. The comment you are viewing has been collapsed. Folded. Feng Yi was a little surprised. He flipped out to look at the post thoughtfully. Not surprisingly, the entire post was banned, and even the account that posted this post became deregistered. Such behavior, in Feng Yi's opinion, was obviously a bit of an attempt to cover up. The authorities are so eager to ban this post, could it be that he guessed something? This content cannot be spread. Once more people know it, it will affect the morale of the army, so the authorities immediately deleted the post and banned the discussion of this topic. Feng Yi recalled the process of reading this post just now. Everything else is fine, the most suspicious thing is that comment. Cold and evil, banned words. If what he said is true, it is not a good thing to be able to feel the cold and evil changes. Could it be that, under the background of the great changes in the world and the revival of spiritual energy, something has begun to invade? Feng Yi looked out the window with deep eyes. It was raining heavily outside the window. Because of the thunder, the weather has been raining heavily recently, and the whole air is shrouded in a gloomy and cold atmosphere. In the rainy city, could it be that something has really awakened from its slumber? The rain is pouring. There were no pedestrians on the street, and even the surrounding shops had closed early. In this thunderous and lightning weather, no one wanted to go out, and they would rather stay at home watching TV and playing games. In the dark night where the rain was dripping into silk threads, a team of figures slowly appeared. They were wearing black raincoats, and they were agile, shuttling through the city, like hawks hunting in the dark. Everyone had a silver headset on their ears, which was slightly shining, becoming the only bright spot in the dark night. The leader pressed the headset lightly, and the voice was faint. Tracking the abnormality of Zhu Yi in the number 7 file, it is currently known that Zhu Yi's ability is to blend into the night, hide his body, and make a subtle sizzling sound when approaching. He likes to eat people. Please help complete the file. The response from the headset soon sounded. Received, reported, please be sure to pay attention to safety in this operation. Please be quick, the information is very important to us. The figure spoke again, with a little solemnity. This Zhu Yi is extremely difficult to deal with. It has been raining recently, so it is hard to find this guy hiding, but he is destined to eat. Once he eats, ordinary people may be in danger. We will never allow this to happen. The city under their feet is still singing and dancing, neon lights flickering, as if sleeping in a huge eggshell. This eggshell is like a protective layer. Even if the world outside the eggshell has been turned upside down, the people inside the eggshell are still dreaming sweet dreams. This is the spirit of the official organization of Sha country, protecting the ordinary lives of ordinary people to the greatest extent. Understood. The voice on the other side also became heavy. A crackling sound of knocking sounded. File number 7 Zhu Yi, request for immediate supplementary information, has been submitted to Priority B, and is expected to be resolved within 24 hours. The leader was silent. 24 hours is not fast, but it is the greatest help that the headquarters can give. Sha country is vast, and all places are recovering from mutations, and the headquarters is too busy. Okay. The earphone flashed, and another message came from the other side. By the way, there is someone from our Spiritual Qi Cultivation Association in the area you are currently approaching. She is carrying out the Pioneer Observation mission. We can send a message and let her assist you temporarily. Okay, thank you. The leader did not refuse. He needs to deal with Zhu Yi as soon as possible. The more people there are at this time, the easier it is to find his trace. On the other side, Su Qingying stood in the security booth at the door of the apartment, preparing to hand over the shift. Yes, after the previous experience, she was 80% sure that the high-attribute pioneer lived in this apartment. Temporary security can allow me to better observe the residents who come and go in the community every day, and I can also receive 2 salaries at the same time. It's simply killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Su Qingying hummed a little song. She was in a melodious mood and planned to change into work clothes and go out for patrol. Xiao Su is on duty in the second half of the night tonight. Can I switch with you? I have something to do. The colleague next to her spoke. Su Qingying was about to refuse. She didn't like staying up late. Suddenly, she noticed a movement from the headset. Sorry, I have to take a call first. Su Qingying walked outside the security booth, confirmed that there was no one around, and lightly clicked the headset. Specialist Su Qingying, new assistance task. Please assist the destroyer team to process file No. 7 Candle Night. The location has been sent to your bracelet. Currently, the destroyer team is rushing to your area. Estimated arrival time, 27 minutes later. Abnormal. Candle Night. Su Qingying's face suddenly became solemn. Abnormalities are extremely powerful and evil mutants, each of which has the power to destroy the city. If not handled quickly, the entire Tai city may fall into a devastating crisis. Chapter 21. In the vast night, there was nothing but heavy rain. Even the tall buildings in the distance had no lights. The world was so quiet, as if there was only endless rain. Zzz. A sharp sound broke the silence. Then, a pair of scarlet eyes suddenly appeared beside the garbage dump in the corner. The blood-red eyes were like a pair of burning candles. File No. 7, Candle Night. Likes, dark, damp, cannibalism. From the outside, this is a big rat with a thin and twisted body, covered with a layer of dark skin all over the body, emitting a dim light as if it had swallowed all the light. Its head was hairless and covered with a layer of mucous membrane like frog skin, which looked a bit disgusting. Coupled with the overly slender limbs and the pointed and long tail, they all exuded a smell of decay and death. On the top of the tall building above its head, several figures slowly stared down. The silver-white headset flickered with a faint light, and the leader gently pressed the headset. "Thanks to you, we can accurately locate the whereabouts of this thing." Standing next to him was Su Qingying, a temporary member transferred by the headquarters for them. Su Qingying shrugged. "Zhu Yi likes to stay in dark and humid places. I have patrolled around here. The most likely place to appear is here, as expected." After Su Qingying found Zhu Yi, she contacted the destroyer squad to come. "Okay, but why are you wearing a security uniform?" Personal hobby. They came very quickly, and Zhu Yi didn't have time to kill anyone. The leader of the destroyer squad turned around and instructed seriously. "During the operation, try to avoid casualties as much as possible. Put your own safety first. If you encounter any problems, report to me as soon as possible. Don't be stubborn. Did you hear it clearly?" "Understood, Captain." The eyes of the three members under the masks were bright and their voices were uniform. The captain of the destroyer squad nodded slightly. He looked at Zhu Yi below, exhaled lightly, and uttered 4 words. "Action. Start." Instantly, everyone's windbreaker moved without wind, and the spiritual energy surging from their bodies lifted the corners of their clothes, and everyone seemed to be shrouded in a layer of light moonlight. The captain was the first. He leaned down, and fell down with a gesture of embracing the earth. Then came the second and the third. They all opened their arms and fell from the tall building, like a light breeze. The next moment, their feet landed on the dark stone bricks on the ground. There was only a light sound of landing, blending into the sound of heavy rain. But Zhu Yi in the dark suddenly raised his head in the gap between running. The blood-red eyes were like a dagger, accurately nailed to the position of the destroyer team. Discovered. Seeing this, there was no need for the captain to give any orders. The destroyer team did not communicate with each other. Relying on the tacit understanding between life and death for many years, they deployed the formation to lock the 4 directions of Zhu Yi's escape. East, south, west, north. The escape routes in the 4 directions were blocked in an instant. Zhu Yi was trapped in the narrow dark passage. His scarlet eyes lit up in the darkness, like a trapped beast. Zzz. In the silent night, a sharp and piercing cry suddenly sounded. It echoed in the empty streets, making people shudder. Zhu Yi bared his teeth and growled at the captain. His decayed wings flapped, and his scarlet eyes flashed with strange light, full of unspeakable ferocity and wildness. As soon as the cry sounded, the temperature around him immediately dropped a lot. Suddenly, the captain put his 2 fingers together and raised them like a sword. A sharp blade transformed from spiritual energy cut through the rain and inserted into Zhu Yi's erect hair with a puff. The spiritual energy was invisible and easily cut off Zhu Yi's hard hair. Zhu Yi roared. His red eyes were like flames, extremely violent. Suddenly, it let out a deafening roar, like the roar of thunder, and the rain in all directions was shaken away. The 4 members of the destroyer team retreated at the same time. The rain contained a transparent and invisible aura. The iron trash can beside was instantly cut into several pieces, and the garbage floated out and fell to the ground. Several deep marks appeared on the ground, as if a giant had used a shovel to scratch the ground fiercely, and the dust was flying. The terrifying destructive power made people's scalps numb. If the team members had not retreated just now, they would probably have broken their bones now. The abnormal strength is indeed strong. Such destructive power, coupled with the terrifying dark attribute, will definitely cause a disaster if it stays in the city for a while. The leading captain looked serious. Watching that, Zhu Yi suddenly opened his bloody mouth and revealed sharp teeth. A cold light flashed. A strange black mist spurted out of its mouth. The black mist was ferocious, filled with a breath of destruction, and the nearest asphalt road surface was instantly corroded. The deeply sunken road surface was reflected in everyone's eyes. The originally flat road surface disappeared, leaving only a large black hole in the middle of the road, which looked very scary and terrifying. Black gas was still coming out of the hole. It is a dark attribute with corrosive properties. This dark attribute can corrode and deconstruct objects the moment it touches them. It can be called the nemesis of all living things and is an extreme destructive force. Without the ultimate high-level attribute to counteract it, this attribute is quite tricky. The destroyer squad quickly analyzed the current situation and frowned deeply. Just then, the old street lamp above the head made a sizzling sound, and it was bright and dim. The next second, the light bulb suddenly exploded. The vision was instantly dark. "Be careful," the captain's low roar sounded in the darkness. All members looked at it together. I saw that the scarlet eyes that were as eye-catching as a small light bulb suddenly turned around and broke through the weakest guarded southeast corner. The team members on the east subconsciously wanted to stop it, but were knocked away and coughed up blood. In just a second, Zhu Yi rushed out, as fast as the wind. "Can't let Zhu Yi run away, chase." The captain gave an order. The members of the destroyer team followed without hesitation. The black fog fled in the dark night. Zhu Yi's escape seemed to be unsystematic, relying only on intuition, running in the spider web-like alleys in the city. The destroyer team followed closely. They bit very hard, like a shadow that could not be shaken off, sticking closely behind Zhu Yi. In the process of tracking, the member in charge of interrogation followed at the end of the team. She was the member who was broken through before. Strictly speaking, she was not a frontal combat force, but a half-command responsible for integrating information and planning routes. She was like a beacon for the entire team. Collecting information and adjusting tactics during the mission was her strength. She raised her wrist, revealing a silver-white watch, which was a new auxiliary equipment made by the Spiritual Qi Cultivation Association, which could detect abnormal concentrations nearby. Under normal circumstances, the abnormal concentration threshold that a team can handle is 50, which is the value of a high-level attribute abnormality, while Zhu Yi's abnormal concentration is 48. The functions of current watches are not perfect, and the positioning is not very accurate, so they are generally only used to survey abnormal concentrations. When she saw the numbers on the watch clearly, her pupils dilated. "Wait, the threshold has exceeded 80, and it is still rising wildly. I'm afraid there is more than one abnormality here." As soon as the interrogation team member spoke, everyone stopped. The figures quickly gathered together, back to back, and looked around to confirm the situation in front of them. This is an abandoned factory. The equipment with spider webs was old, half of it fell on the production line, and the oil flowing on the ground had dried and solidified. It seemed that it had been abandoned for a long time. Because the light was dim and the rain interfered with the vision, even if they were the pioneers of the spiritual energy revival, it was difficult to detect. The trap they carefully wove for the destroyer team was difficult to escape. "Did you fall for it?" the captain whispered. This abandoned factory didn't look like someone would escape into it when they were desperate. Instead, it looked more like a trap. A trap that would catch all of them in one fell swoop and catch them in a jar. In the dark, a big black snake slowly turned its body, revealing a huge and muscular body. The black scales were the color of death, flashing a strange light in the dim light. The long snake tongue kept stretching and retracting, emitting a suffocating fishy smell. Every time its scales rubbed against each other, the sound made people's hearts tremble. The hissing sound kept echoing in the old machines, like some kind of provocation. A big black snake with dark attribute. Zhu Yi deceived all of them and led them into this abandoned factory in the posture of escaping. And the dark attribute itself is also the best at hiding to a certain extent. Zhu Yi is dark, and the big snake is also dark. Boom! A loud noise. The door slammed shut under the swing of the snake's tail. In the silent night, an uneasy and weird atmosphere gradually spread. With the deprivation of vision, the rest of the senses became particularly sharp. The ears were filled with the hissing of the snake, and the cold, evil breath filled the cheeks, making people subconsciously nauseous. Can't find Zhu Yi's location in the dark night. Only the sound of the snake's tail dragging on the ground can be vaguely heard, and the whole destroyer team is quite passive. Suddenly, a disgusting smell drilled into the tip of the nose and rushed straight to the top of the head. Dark attribute poisonous fog. Get out of the way. The captain was the first to react and immediately sounded the alarm. But it was too late. A team member next to him was unable to dodge, and the poisonous fog directly stuck to his arm. A cold feeling penetrated his clothes and crawled all over his arm. He gasped in pain, reached out and touched it, and touched a hand full of warm blood. Corrosion. In the darkness, the member's face suddenly changed. You don't need to look to know that his arm is now covered with blood. Retreat. The captain immediately ordered. The corrosive effect of the poisonous fog is extremely strong, even more intense than highly toxic chemicals, and it corrodes as soon as it touches. There is no way to confront such a domineering ability. Everyone supported the wounded and retreated to the door at a very fast speed. The bloodstains drew a line on the ground and were then bandaged by torn clothes. But the air was filled with the smell of blood, intertwined with the pungent black fog. The faces of others were not very good either. "Captain, the poisonous fog is still spreading. If this continues, we will all die." In this dark factory, the poisonous fog blocked their sight. They couldn't find the exit and could only hide. But no matter how hard they hid, the space was always limited, and the poisonous fog would touch the corners of their clothes sooner or later. Sitting and waiting to die is not the style of the destroyer squad. They are a sharp arrow. If the anomaly wants their lives, they will pierce its throat at the risk of their lives. Take good care of him. I will find the location of Zhu Yi. The captain stood up and calmly arranged the tactics. Listen to the sound of its movement. I will find a way to limit it in the middle. You can sneak attack at that time. Understood. 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 3 voices in unison. The captain turned around and pointed as a sword, using the majestic spiritual energy to tear a hole in the black fog. He rushed in. Soon, the sound of intensive fighting sounded. Snap. Soon, the sound of glass shattering came from the right, and something hit the wall hard. I don't know if it was a human or an animal. Boom. The parts of the old instrument collapsed with a bang, splashing a floor with an unpleasant smell of smoke and dust, which was very choking. It was still pitch black in front of them. The strong sound of rain weakened their hearing. They could only listen to the sound to locate the position of Zhu Yi and the captain for a short time, but they were overthrown in the next second. The sizzling sound was like a blazing bonfire on a winter night, scorching everything in the factory and everyone's nerves. Ding! Another smashing sound. This time, there was a familiar groan in the sound. Zhu Yi was running around in the darkness crazily, appearing from time to time. The captain was quick to react and collided with it every time, but now he was a little too late to react. This thing. The captain sat up and raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. He closed his eyes, but was still severely corroded by the black fog. At this moment, 2 lines of blood slowly fell from his closed eyes. The air was severely compressed. He gasped and felt that his nose was full of the smell of this black fog. Is it really going to die here? In a closed space. Once this factory is filled with black fog, only slow death awaits them. This black fog is like a thick gauze, blocking their eyes. They can't see the stars and the moon, and can't find an exit. Even if they find it, with their current physical strength, they can't get out. My spiritual energy is almost exhausted. The previous fight consumed too much spiritual energy. Once this spiritual energy is gone, the black fog will corrode my body in an instant. However, the beast just now also consumed a lot, otherwise the black fog would have filled all of our bodies. Although it is useless, as long as that guy is smart enough and doesn't come out, he can slowly spray out black fog to kill all of us. Anomalies are not beasts, they also have wisdom. Who is the hunter and who is the prey? The captain smiled bitterly. He could no longer find the location of the other people. Everyone was trapped in this black fog, just like slowly sinking into the depths of the swamp, and the increasingly heavy gravity pulled all of them down together, without a chance of rescue. The hissing sound surrounded their ears, like a death warrant, constantly urging them to die. This is the first time. The captain of the destroyer team felt a deep despair in his heart. He heard the sound of rain all over the sky. The black fog gradually submerged his spiritual energy transparent shield. The black color, symbolizing death, gradually filled the entire abandoned factory. At this moment, no one has time to care. In the heavy rain, a black figure slowly appeared outside the abandoned factory, on a dilapidated residential building. Rain slid down his robe, and he quietly looked at the abandoned factory. It turns out that the people who have been monitoring me are from the Spiritual Qi Cultivation Association. Their people know some rules and know not to disturb my life. Fang Yi's eyes fell on the black fog that surged like a tide. Is this the anomaly? 10 minutes ago, Fang Yi kept searching for keywords about cold and evil on his phone, but found nothing. If the authorities want to conceal something, they will definitely not leave any clues. That is why the spiritual energy revival was concealed so well. Evil, cold, abnormal. So these are all called abnormal. Fang Yi could only piece together the word abnormal from the online Sherlock Holmes code of the Riddler. Abnormal. Now, after seeing this mysterious creature, Fang Yi has a concrete understanding of this. The next second, he stepped down from the dilapidated residential building. Heavy rain fell on his windbreaker, making a crisp sound. He stepped into the black fog. In an instant, dazzling golden light emanated from him. The golden sun-breathing method turned into a terrifying and blazing sunlight, like a huge sword, slashing into the dark realm. The black fog twisted and surged, as if it was a monster trapped in a dangerous abyss, and most of it was dispelled in the blink of an eye. Darkness attribute, Fang Yi murmured faintly. Then, his aura suddenly surged, and the grand and blazing aura instantly suppressed the surrounding black fog. The black fog felt the huge pressure, and those dark shadows were gradually melted by the light of the golden sun, just like insects struggling powerlessly under the fierce sunlight, and were beaten by this aura without any ability to fight back. As if it was a group of bound shadows, baptized by the light bit by bit, the black fog could not resist this extreme yang attribute. They kept retreating, and were forced to have no way to escape by the blazing sun. Zzz. In the black fog, a huge black snake hissed at him. The black snake's scales were pulled out in several places, and it was bleeding. It looked like it had fought with people and suffered some injuries, but not fatally. It opened its huge mouth, and its fangs were soaked with black venom, trying to swallow Fang Yi into its stomach. However, it hadn't reached Fang Yi yet. Fang Yi drew his knife. The blade of the Tang sword reflected the pattern of flames, and the scorching and fiery breath cut down on the head, and the flames drew a thin red line in the air. A red line appeared in the center of the snake's eyes. The next second, the red line was like a dividing line in the picture, splitting the whole snake in two, and the snake's head split into two halves and fell to both sides. The black snake was cut in half by a knife. Boom! The explosion sounded like thunder in the snake's body. The hot flames gushed out, instantly turning the snake's body into a blazing flame, burning the surrounding air distorted, and the broken snake scales flickered in the firelight, shining with the remaining light like a ruby. The originally strong and heavy body of the big black snake was torn into pieces under the impact of the explosion, scattered all over the ground, turned into countless fragments, and exuded a suffocating sulfur smell. As the aftermath of the explosion gradually dissipated, only a messy scene was left, and the broken snake head was looming in the smoke. Its giant lamp-like snake pupils seemed to have not yet reacted, and there was still a trace of coldness and malice in them. Death and unwillingness, killing and destruction. All were destroyed by this knife, leaving no trace. If someone saw this scene at this moment, they would only feel awe and fear of this terrifying scene. Unfortunately, in the darkness shrouded by black fog, the destroyer team could not see this terrifying scene. The snake's body instantly split into two halves and fell to the ground. Zzz. There was still a terrible sound in the air. Well, there is another one. A small beast attacked Fang Yi. This thing is very fast. Fang Yi frowned slightly. His palm attacked instantly. In an instant, the power of thunder filled Fang Yi's palm, as if thousands of electric currents were intertwined and entangled in his palm. In the flash of lightning, an extremely powerful force of judgment gathered in it, emitting a terrifying aura that made people shudder. The moment the palm touched Zhu Yi, boom, the power of thunder burst out like lightning. The dazzling light of thunder resounded through the factory, like the thunder of judgment descending on the earth. In an instant, the body of the little beast was like an exploding rock, bursting out amazing energy in the air, and countless electric lights danced around it. After a loud bang, the body of the little beast completely collapsed, and the fragments fell to the ground like rain, leaving a messy scene. The whole process was without any hesitation. This triple critical strike power is really fierce. Fang Yi looked at his palm. Fang Yi stood in place, and the power of thunder gradually dissipated in the palm of his hand. The surging thunder above and the mess left on the ground announced the horrible scene just now. This little beast should be a 3-star ghost axe thing, and the snake is only 2 stars, but it's a pity that it can't resist a slap. This is the triple critical strike power. Attribute suppression, instant kill in the same battle, and no less than in the cross war. Fang Yi is sure that even if the little beast just now is stronger, he can deal with it, but it will be a little more difficult than now. It seems that my current combat level is pretty good among the pioneers. Fang Yi chuckled. The appearance of anomalies in the information he collected caused a headache for the authorities, and they had to send a professional team to encircle and suppress them. So, can he now match the professional team? After easily solving the two anomalies, Fang Yi turned around and left the factory without any nostalgia. He came here as if to verify all this. Inside the abandoned factory, the members of the destroyer team were already dying. The last trace of spiritual energy in their bodies had been exhausted. Without the protection of spiritual energy, it was easier for the black fog to corrode their bodies than drinking water. Everyone closed their eyes tightly, squatted in the corner and shivered, waiting for death to come. But the strange thing was, after waiting for a long time, they did not wait for the next attack of Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi seemed to leak air all of a sudden. Did you find that the fog seemed to be getting lighter? Someone spoke in doubt. Everyone then noticed that the thick black fog that could cover the sky had become much thinner. If it was a thick black cloth that could not let out a single ray of light before, it was now at most a piece of black gauze. Although it was still somewhat obscured, some things could be vaguely seen. The destroyer squad was immediately excited. No, not only has the black fog become lighter, I also smell a very strange smell, as if something is burnt. I also smell the burnt smell. Do you only smell the burnt smell? I also smell a strong smell of blood. Is anyone injured? Without the thick and pungent smell of the black fog covering it. The smell of burnt and blood hit the tip of the nose, very clear. Everyone was confused. Gather together first and observe the situation around you. The captain calmly instructed. He stood up first and barely opened his eyes through which the spiritual energy flowed. The scene in front of him slowly appeared in front of him. When he saw what was happening in front of him clearly, his face suddenly changed. A deep look of horror appeared on his usually calm face. What on earth is going on here? The destroyer team stood in the abandoned factory. They saw a scene that they would never forget in their lifetime. In the pool of blood, the body of the black snake was split into two. The red blood on the ground flowed all over the ground, and there were traces of burning next to it. Pure and blazing yang attribute energy surged around. The faces of the destroyer team were full of horror. When did an extreme yang attribute pioneer appear here? Su Qingying supported her arm, frowned slightly on her pale face, and spoke with a firm tone. It's him. I think I know what happened. Su Qingying said, but a hint of discomfort appeared on her face. I should know this person, he is my mission target. Monitoring mission, the captain said. Yes, I am here to monitor an extreme high-level attribute pioneer, who is a yang attribute pioneer. Su Qingying briefly described her monitoring situation, hiding the embarrassing situation of always following behind to clean up the butt. Anyway, every time I was about to find him, he would always leave first, as if he did it on purpose. Before, I was wondering if he did it on purpose. Now it seems that he should have known that I was looking for him nearby. Thinking that her monitoring mission was counter-monitored by the mission object. Su Qingying felt her scalp tingling. It turned out that she had been fooled. However, this emotion only appeared for a moment and was soon replaced by a complex emotion. Originally, I was responsible for monitoring and protecting him by the way, but in the end, I was protected by him. After hearing her words, the destroyer squad was speechless for a while. Looking at each other, not knowing what to say. Awesome. So awesome. In such an old-looking apartment, there is such a powerful pioneer hidden. What a strong strength. You just said that he is a yang attribute. Then what is this? The captain squatted on the ground, pointing to a corner with a serious look. That was Zhu Yi's body. Zhu Yi's body was obviously struck by the power of thunder. There is still a huge amount of electric charge left on it. If you stretch out your hand slightly, you will be hit unexpectedly. It can be seen that the person who made the move has a very strong thunder attribute. Is this thunder attribute? Judging from the purity, it is still a high-level attribute. Su Qingying's beautiful eyes widened, but he is a yang attribute. I have seen the traces with my own eyes before. It is definitely a yang attribute. You mean, two people appeared here yesterday, one after the other, no more than 5 minutes apart, one killed the black snake, the other killed Zhu Yi, and then left together. The captain looked at her. Su Qingying could only remain silent. How could such a coincidence happen in the world? Two people appeared in the same place at the same time, both sides just killed an abnormality, and then turned around and left tacitly. I just compared the shooting habits, killing methods, and the footprints here, etc. After analysis, it is very likely that the person who killed these two abnormalities is the same person. The interrogation team member adjusted his glasses and spoke hesitantly. One person, she herself didn't believe it when she said it. But the facts proved that the two people were indeed the same person. Dual attribute pioneer, thunder, yang, these are all high-level attributes. It's a monster. The destroyer team was deeply shocked. The air was mixed with violent thunder, which made their heartbeats accelerate. The two anomalies lying on the ground. If they picked one of them at random, they would almost be buried here. But what was the result? The opponent made a direct move and killed both of them in 1 second. Clean and neat, killed in one blow. They are both in the Ghost Axe realm. The gap is too incredible. My monitoring object has appeared, I need to report to the higher-ups. After a while, Su Qingying broke the silence, her expression was still a little dazed. The members of the destroyer team could understand it very well. Because they were in the same mood now, not only dazed, but even felt that they might be dreaming now. Su Qingying turned and walked aside to report the information. The two tasks on her body, one for monitoring and the other for killing Zhu Yi, all collided at this moment, and she happened to be the only one reporting. I think the headquarters will be shocked too. A pioneer with two high-level attributes is a unique existence. With such extreme attributes, anyone with any one of them is a top genius, but he actually has two at once. Did you see the yang attribute? It is fiery and domineering, and it is not inferior to the thunder attribute at all. With such an extreme yang attribute, the black fog must have been dispelled by him. Not to mention that the black snake can't stand it, even the high-level attribute darkness may not be able to stop it. Such a top genius, the organization must be eager to absorb him. At this time, although the spiritual energy recovery has not yet started completely, strange phenomena have appeared frequently in various places. Every organization is racking its brains to introduce talents. This is not only for the current cleanup activities, but more for the future. When the spiritual energy recovery really comes, the world will be rewritten in another order. Whoever has more and stronger pioneers in his hands will have a bigger and harder fist. Of course, super monsters like this kind of double high-level attributes are a top resource that overrides everything. I believe that all major forces will strive to receive them under their command even if they break their heads. Whoever possesses him is equivalent to holding half of the hope for the future. Su Qingying thought so too. She reported her monitoring results to the organization and proposed that the other party might be a pioneer with high-level attributes of yang and thunder. How about I go find him and persuade him to join our spiritual practice? After Su Qingying made the suggestion, she waited for a long time, but the other party did not respond. She tapped the headset twice again and found a beeping sound from it, which should be the signal was disconnected. After waiting for a while, the signal soon recovered, and the voice of the commissioner came from the headset. You come back first. At present, it seems that the other party has nothing against our Shushan Association, so this time he saved you in the surrounding area, which fully proves that the other party is not our enemy. But if we continue to send people to stay there to harass him, it may affect his impression of the Shushan Association. The commissioner's cautious words set off a huge wave in Su Qingying's heart. Harassment? You actually call my monitoring harassment? No, that's not the point. Su Qingying has been a member of the Cultivation Association for a year, and this is the first time she has heard the Cultivation Association be so cautious about a pioneer. They are simply afraid that the other party will despise them. However, she looked down at Zhu Yi's body with arc expansion. The thunder power has existed for a long time and has not dissipated, which means that the other party's thunder power is extremely pure. The golden yang attribute at the door was poured down by heavy rain, but it still maintained a high temperature and steamed out terrifying steam. This guy is so strong. High-rise apartment, entrance. Feng Yi took off his black raincoat and hung it on the hanger at the door. He looked down at the thunder and lightning charge surging in his right hand, thinking of the various strange phenomena that have become more and more frequent in recent days. It is less than a year before the official spiritual energy revival, but now the world has changed drastically, and strange phenomena are appearing everywhere. The strange climate, the thunder on the top of the Jade Emperor Peak, the magma flowing in the underground dark river, the pioneers have spontaneously embarked on the path of cultivation. After opening the interface between the body and the spiritual energy world, they can feel the changes between heaven and earth more keenly than ordinary people. Just like the group of people in the underground dark river before, they just felt the changes nearby and went there by themselves. Now, the pioneers have embarked on the path of self-cultivation. Those pioneers who are not recognized by the country have generally reached the level of Ghost Axe 1 star. This shows the pioneers are actively and urgently looking for these openings of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to improve their strength. Those people in the underground dark river are the best evidence. It is still a relatively stable exploration stage, because most of the pioneers are seeking to change the world and improve their strength. The occurrence of anomalies is still within the control of the country, and there are no major conflicts between the pioneers. At the national level, the Spiritual Chi Cultivation Association has been established. Although it has not yet revealed its identity to the outside world, the official seal is already very clear. Spiritual Chi Cultivation Association. Fang Yi has confirmed that this is the work of the Sha Kingdom. It can be seen that the Sha Kingdom is showing goodwill to the wild pioneers and also giving some guidance. However, in my opinion, the problem lies with the country and the Spiritual Chi Cultivation Association. The country has clearly established the Spiritual Chi Cultivation Association, but has not made its existence public. Instead, it allows it to develop freely and provides some support in secret. This shows that the country has no intention of making it public for the time being. Fang Yi pondered, thinking of the content in the recent news. Since the opening, terrifying changes have begun to erupt in various places, and some unknown forces have also been awakened. Mysterious cracks often appear in the sky, confusing songs are heard in the ocean, the terrain suddenly twists in various places, and islands disappear on the map after being swallowed by thick fog. These information are mixed in the daily news, as if opening the door to another world for ordinary people. When walking on the road, you can hear people frequently discussing the hidden unsafe factors in the surrounding environment everywhere. Visions, changes, the future. The world seems to have become magical all of a sudden, and there is uncertainty everywhere. It can be seen. The country is trying every means to warn ordinary people, while protecting them, trying to make them understand the impending crisis. But in this wave of spiritual revival, the biggest problem is here. In fact, the country does not have the confidence to directly open the era of comprehensive practice. Fang Yi rubbed his fingers. Xiaoguo has a large population. Once the information is made public, the first thing to be affected is the decline of order and internal unrest. Chaos is something that no country can bear. There are too many dangers associated with the revival of spiritual energy. Once it is made public, the first thing to face is a large number of deaths. There are mutations and anomalies everywhere. Not only do we have to protect ordinary people from death, but we also have to protect some people who are trying to die. In this case, it is not ruled out that many people will take risks to become pioneers and gamble on that possibility. This is the most labor-intensive group. Of course, there are also some cowards who think that the world pattern is about to change and money and power are no longer the dominant force, so they will do some stupid things such as robbery and kidnapping to challenge the majesty of the country. These factors are within the scope of consideration of the country. Once the whole people practice, it will only be more chaotic. Therefore, Fang Yi can actually understand that Xiaoguo adopts this gentle approach. The human heart is more terrifying than ghosts and gods, so there is no need to test the human heart. What's more, the anomalies bred by the dark attribute are an extremely terrifying threat to ordinary people and pioneers. Fang Yi thought of the two dark attribute abnormal creatures he saw today. Abnormalities are the most troublesome. A big snake and a small beast that looks like a mouse. They should be the mutant products of the invasion of the dark attribute. This group of abnormalities exudes a cold and evil aura all over their bodies, and they also like to feed on humans. Especially the bodies of the pioneers, which are a great tonic for them. If they were just violent beasts, it would be fine, but they obviously have high IQs. From what I saw today, they are very cunning. Who would have thought that two unrelated dark attribute creatures would unite and set a trap for the team of the Spiritual Chi Cultivation Association, tricking them into their own territory and killing them? However, the dark attribute contained in the black fog is really troublesome. Not only can it help the big snake hide, but it is also the nemesis of the pioneers. Even the Spiritual Chi Cultivation team almost suffered a heavy loss, and this is just a sub-attribute of the dark attribute. If Fang Yi hadn't gone, the team today would probably be in danger. And that is just a sub-attribute of the dark attribute. This shows the high-level attributes are indeed extremely powerful. No wonder, each high-level attribute has extremely high value. Just suppressing the sub-attributes is powerful enough. Fang Yi thought. He was able to easily kill two anomalies before, relying on his extreme high-level attributes. The Yang attribute is as hot as fire, which can make him turn into the scorching sun and safely pass through any extreme celestial phenomena. The Thunder attribute shows the tyrannical power of judging everything. Once it encounters a creature with dark attributes, it is even more devastating, and a palm strike turns it into ashes. The dark attribute is even more terrifying, and it can actually create a creature that has a great impact on human society. But I don't seem to have seen any changes in the dark attribute at present. Fang Yi thought about it. I haven't seen many anomalies, maybe I haven't seen that kind of thing yet. With my current double high-level attributes, plus the strength of the Ghost Axe 3 stars, there should be very few pioneers who can be my opponent. The suppression of high-level attributes is too strong. Even if someone is at a higher level than me, he may not be able to defeat him in actual combat, but it does not rule out that others will have opportunities. However, I have not only high-level attributes, but also matching skills. The Golden Sun breathing method of the Yang attribute, the Divine Thunder 100 refinements of the Thunder attribute. Each of them is extremely powerful when taken out alone. They are born from my attributes and are 100% compatible with my attributes. This is my biggest advantage. Fang Yi is very confident. Even if other pioneers have powerful opportunities, they can't beat him. That breath disappeared. Fang Yi's eyes moved slightly. He felt that the power that had been monitoring him for a few days could no longer be felt. Is it the woman from the Spiritual Chi Cultivation Association? Gone. I have to admit it. For the Spiritual Chi Revival Association, Fang Yi's impression score is +1. No clinging, keeping a distance, and giving full respect, this is the pattern that the official should have. When Fang Yi was reading novels before, he hated the plot where a certain force would be so shameless as to compete for a powerful protagonist, using courtesy first and then force, and even destroying the protagonist if they couldn't get him. 2 words to sum it up. Sick. Without eyes to check him, Fang Yi suddenly felt refreshed. He sat cross-legged, facing the dim morning light, and slowly exhaled. After so much rain, the sun is finally coming out. The weather forecast said that today's weather is very good and the sun is shining brightly, and he can breathe in and out the Golden Sun breathing method facing the sun again. I haven't unlocked the attributes for a long time. I don't know when there will be a new change in the world for me to observe. Boom. Fang Yi closed his eyes, took a deep breath of the morning air, and felt the warmth of the sun. The Golden Sun breathing technique slowly operated. The golden light around him was dazzling, as if the sun was shining on him. Strands of golden blood flowed in his blood vessels. Every strand of blood contained warmth, like a warm trickle, spreading all over his body. The blood became hot and dazzling, a layer of golden halo appeared on the surface of his body, and his skin exuded a healthy and burning luster. After the persistent tempering of the Golden Sun breathing technique, Fang Yi felt that his body was filled with endless heat and vitality inside and out. Every inch of his skin was absorbing the sunlight. He felt that his body became firm and flexible, and every muscle exuded the vitality of the bright sun. The Golden Sun breathing technique is paired with the Golden Sun, which is really cool. Fang Yi couldn't help but sigh. This extreme Yang attribute is a powerful weapon, and the powerful technique of the Golden Sun breathing technique, which is matched with this weapon, maximizes the value of the weapon. He now felt as if he had endless energy all over his body. This was all brought about by the Golden Sun breathing method and the Yang attribute. As long as he continued like this, one day, Fang Yi's body would become indestructible and reach the legendary level of a cultivator. However, to really reach that level, he would first have to experience the process of water dripping through the stone. Cultivation is still a lonely road. Fang Yi sighed lightly. Pioneers are pioneers of the new era. It is not an exaggeration to say that the future they face is extremely uncertain. The more so, the more they need strong perseverance and courage. On this road, many people will die halfway. After completing the daily morning breathing method, Fang Yi slowly exhaled a long breath and planned to go to eat. At this moment, a phone call came in. Aunt. Fang Yi looked at the notes on the phone and was surprised. I haven't called them for many years. Why did my aunt suddenly contact me? Fang Yi didn't have much contact with his relatives since he was a child. After his parents died in an accident, he remembered that his aunt had proposed to adopt him, but he refused. Even if he was a relative, he would be living under someone else's roof, and he might be regarded as an imaginary enemy by the children of the relatives. It would be better to be comfortable by himself. Then Fang Yi lived alone in the big house left by his parents, happy as a god. Aunt, Xiao Yi, have you eaten? I have eaten. The aunt started with the classic three-piece greeting. Have you eaten? How have you been recently? Hey, I have something to tell you. Fang Yi patiently exchanged a few words with his aunt, and sure enough, the topic came to the last one. It's like this, Xiao Yi, I have something to discuss with you. Your cousin is going to Tai City to study recently. I am really worried about her staying in a hotel alone. Can I stay at your place for a few days? Cousin. Fang Yi was stunned. He didn't expect that what his aunt wanted to talk about was this matter. In an instant, the image of a cold-faced loli with long black hair, thin waist and long legs emerged in his mind. That's right, my cousin is very beautiful, the type of aloof, academically strong and obedient girl. In Fang Yi's memory, this obedient girl's biggest hobby is to study quietly in the study room, and of course, her grades are always the best in the grade. Maybe because she is beautiful and has good grades, Fang Yi always feels that this cousin is not very sociable and a little mysterious. Okay, when will my cousin arrive? I'll pick her up. No, you go about your business, just send me the address, I'll ask her to take a taxi. Because my aunt took the initiative to ask him to do something, she was a little embarrassed, and repeatedly stated that she didn't need to pick up the car, and asked my cousin to bring him a lot of local specialties. Fang Yi pushed and pulled twice, and no longer refused. After hanging up the phone, he sent the address. Afternoon. Cousin Lin Yi is here. When Fang Yi opened the door, he saw a long-legged black girl standing outside dragging a black suitcase. The girl was wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans, and her hair was loosely inserted with a wooden hairpin, looking very elegant. Cousin Fang. Lin Yi's voice was very pleasant, like water knocking on wood and stone, very suitable for online dating. Cousin. Fang Yi opened the door and took the initiative to drag her suitcase in. Come in and sit down, what do you want to drink? I have Coke here. Just drink water. Lin Yi changed into a pair of slippers after entering the door, placed the specialties requested by her aunt on the table and introduced them one by one, and then sat on the sofa in a proper manner. She folded her hands on her knees throughout the whole process, with her eyes downcast, looking very quiet. Fang Yi brought her a cup of boiled water and sat on the sofa. Lin Yi held the cup in both hands and started the necessary awkward chat with Fang Yi before borrowing the room. How is your aunt? Very good. How is your study recently? Are you stressed? Not bad. Are you here for summer camp? Yes. Lin Yi answered every question, but the two had not seen each other for too long and were not familiar with each other. Fang Yi asked a few questions casually, and when he felt that the process was almost done, he waved his hand and asked her to go back to her room to study. Call me if you need anything. Okay, thank you, cousin. Lin Yi got up obediently. I'll stay here for the next few days, thank you, cousin. She stepped on her slippers, dragged the suitcase to her room, and then closed the door. Fang Yi watched her back as she left, looked at her for a while, and turned back to her room. In the second bedroom, Lin Yi turned on the light and looked down at her bed. Three-piece suit, new, with a faint scent of detergent on it. There were no women's products in the room. It seemed that the cousin did not have a girlfriend and lived alone, and the house was quite clean. Lin Yi packed her luggage briefly, then took out her phone from her bag and opened her chat software. Group. Spiritual Resurrection Martial Arts Pioneer Team. Group members. 7 people. Lin Yi tapped the screen with her green fingers and sent a line of words in the group. Yi Feng Heju, I have moved into my cousin's house. It is convenient for me to move around here recently. My cousin looks good and should not interfere with my affairs. Is this true? Soon, a message popped up. 81-year-old beautiful young woman. Well, this message is true. Taishi has been quite abnormal recently. There are always various major changes. The underground river last time was a treasure land, but it was a pity that someone got there first. Online dating was cheated of 50 cents. I heard about that incident too. It seems that the two teams collided, and a very strong pioneer appeared, slashing out the sun with one knife. Then he forced the people to retreat. I'm so mad, I worship the boss. PR. 81-year-old beautiful young woman, cut out the sun with one knife. Really, that must be the ultimate yang attribute, a high attribute pioneer. Lin Yi remembered the news she had heard and typed. Yi Feng Heju. It's true, I heard about it too. Yi Feng Heju. So, we must be careful in this action. Now the spiritual energy recovery has not yet begun, everything is in the dark, God knows how many monster-like pioneers Sha country has hidden, we must not be too high profile. 81-year-old beautiful young woman, +1. Online dating was cheated of 50 cents, +10086. They knew that Lin Yi's words were not alarmist. Today's pioneers are in a state of wild growth, without the introduction of explicit rules and regulations, and the struggle for the great changes in the world depends entirely on their own abilities. The advantage of this situation is that you are strong and you are right, and you can rob others of their opportunities at will without being morally criticized. As for the disadvantages, they are also obvious. When you can't rob others, it's useless for you to come first. When they encounter the powerful pioneers who are beyond their strength in the underground river, they can only escape in disgrace. What is it like to live with a beautiful cousin? After a few days of getting along with her, Feng Yi feels that he is very qualified to answer. First of all, I feel very uncomfortable with an extra person at home, especially when I take a shower every day. The water temperature in the bathroom is always a little high. I can see her slender figure blowing her hair through the glass window. There is a hint of sweet floral fragrance of her shampoo in the air. Occasionally, there will be some embarrassing problems, such as collecting clothes when it rains and she is not at home. Should I collect her underwear? And when I went out last time, Mr. Wong next door always felt that I had a beautiful student girlfriend, and he always tried to ask me for advice. Of course, these are not the most terrifying things. The most terrifying thing is that since she lived with me, I have become punctual for meals every day. I have to buy vegetables and cook every day. Of course, she buys and cooks, and I am responsible for eating. I have to mention that her cooking is quite delicious, and every meal is different. By the way, she also has mysophobia. She will clean the room spotlessly every day when she gets up. Just like now. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door, followed by Lin Yi's cold voice. Cousin, we'll have tomato beef brisket rice and cold cucumber salad for lunch today, and the soup is corn and pork ribs soup. Do you need to add a little less tomato to your portion? Add a little less, I don't like sour food. Okay, you can eat in 20 minutes. The footsteps gradually faded away. Feng Yi counted the time and walked out 15 minutes later. As soon as he opened the door, a fragrance of food wafted in. The floor of the room had just been mopped, so clean that it could reflect his shadow. At a glance, all the brooms and mops, including the furnishings on the cabinets, were neatly placed together, revealing a taste of obsessive-compulsive disorder. He has lived alone for so many years, and this house has never been so clean except when it was just renovated. Feng Yi walked into the living room and looked at the kitchen. In the transparent glass, the girl in an apron was busy, her long black hair tied into a loose ponytail, her jeans outlined her slender calves, and she was wearing a pair of pink bunny slippers. Lin Yi lowered her head, tasting the saltiness of the soup. A strand of long hair fell down, and was lifted up by her bare hands. Is there anything I can do for you? Feng Yi walked to the refrigerator next to her and took out a bottle of apple cider vinegar and a bottle of Coke. My cousin likes to drink sour apple cider vinegar, and this is the only thing she asked him to do while staying here. Cousin, please help me take down the bowls and chopsticks, the dishes are ready. Okay. Fang Yi put the bowl in front of her. 2 plates of fragrant tomato beef brisket rice were served in the bowl, and the beef brisket was flowing with a golden color, which looked very appetizing. In the restaurant, the two sat opposite each other, both of them ate in silence, and the only sound of the bowls and chopsticks touching each other was the whole process. I'll wash the dishes today. I'm embarrassed to ask you to cook and wash the dishes all the time. Fang Yi said. It's okay, I'm staying here, this is what I should do. This conversation happens almost every day. Lin Yi never asked Fang Yi to wash the dishes. If Fang Yi forced her to do so, she would quietly eat less and wash his dishes first. She was very polite and impeccable. In short, Fang Yi felt that it was good to have a cousin who was staying with him. The only inconvenience was that it was inconvenient for him to practice at home because the golden sun breathing method made too much noise. Thinking of this, Fang Yi smiled helplessly. After Lin Yi washed the dishes, she went into her second bedroom to study. Fang Yi changed his clothes and planned to go out to the back mountain. However, just as he put his hand on the door handle, he suddenly felt an inexplicable breath. Fang Yi followed the breath and looked. His deep eyes fell on the door of the second bedroom. Strands of crystal clear spiritual energy were gathering. Cousin's room. Fang Yi raised his eyebrows and moved. The next second, Fang Yi appeared outside Lin Yi's window. The window curtains were slightly opened, revealing a corner. The girl sat cross-legged on the bed. The strands of spiritual energy were like crystal clear dewdrops, rolling and soaking the girl's fair skin. The white light was like starlight, forming faint ripples in the air, gathering towards her like a tide. Her skin was slightly radiant with fine light, as gentle as the spring breeze blowing over the grass, and her breath became steady and deep, blending with the spiritual energy around her. The skin is crystal clear, as if it is reflected by the moonlight. The whole process is beautiful and magnificent, like a fairyland. Fang Yi witnessed the whole process. I didn't expect that my cousin is also a pioneer in the revival of spiritual energy. Fang Yi's eyes moved slightly. At this moment, Lin Yi in the room seemed to have noticed something, and her beautiful eyes raised and swept out the window. There was only a fallen leaf outside the window, fluttering and falling. Nothing. Is it my illusion? I felt like there was a gaze staring at me just now. Lin Yi frowned slightly. She slowly restrained her breath, and the spiritual energy was invisibly restrained and taken into her body. The girl's body showed a bright luster, which made her look more like pearls and jade. Lin Yi slowly exhaled. Ghost Axe 2-star. It is her current realm. My cousin has a good talent. She is already Ghost Axe 2-star at such a young age, and she is about to be promoted. Outside the window, Fang Yi did not leave. Just now, he noticed her sight, so he avoided it. Seeing Lin Yi's realm, he sighed slightly. In this era where most people are 1-star or 2-star, Lin Yi's Guifu 2-star can already be called a little master. Is it because of such a high talent for cultivation that her personality is more eccentric? Fang Yi couldn't help but have a thought. He felt that his behavior of squatting by the window of the young girl was a little strange, and was about to leave. Suddenly, Lin Yi's mobile phone on the table rang. She reached out and pressed the answer button. She couldn't hear what the other party said, but her face changed all of a sudden. The world will change tomorrow. What time tomorrow? Afternoon, 3 o'clock, Yangwo Town. I can be there. Well, just find a reason. My cousin is a good person and he won't restrict me. Fang Yi had originally planned to leave. But when he heard the 4 words, the world will change, his feet were nailed to the spot and couldn't move. Lin Yi's style of making calls is very concise and powerful. She first confirmed the time and place, and then began to arrange when people should do what. From Lin Yi's conversation, she should occupy a relatively core position in her team. Probably a role like a team leader. Yangwo Town. Is it the internet celebrity tourist town near Tai City? It's not far from me. It can be reached in an hour by car, and it only takes an hour and a half by professional bus. So, my cousin's coming to participate in the summer camp is fake, and the great changes in the world are real. She must have heard the news of the great changes in the world from somewhere, so she made up an excuse to run here. Fang Yi found it very interesting. My cousin is a student, and she has to study and practice, and now she has to run around chasing the great changes. She can be called a master of time management. Yangwo Town is at the edge of Tai City. When the time comes, we will rent a car and take a car there together. Well, we will meet at the old place when the time comes. In the room, Lin Yi was unaware and was still on the phone. And every word she said was transmitted to Feng Yi's ears without missing a word. Feng Yi listened and thought. Every great change in the world is an opportunity. Every time I can gain a kind of skill to enhance my strength. I wonder what the nature of this great change in Yangwo town is. Who cares? Anyway, it's mine when I hear it. Feng Yi thought in his heart. He listened outside the window for a while and found that Lin Yi didn't mention more information about Yangwo town. Maybe they themselves don't know much, and they won't know until they get there. Feng Yi decided to go with them. Yangwo Valley. Located in Yangwo town, a remote town near Tai City, it looks like an internet celebrity town. The ancient buildings are mixed with a street of barbecue, milk tea, and expensive popsicles. At first glance, it is full of the smell of IQ tax. Is this the place where the world is about to change? 6 men and women stood at the entrance of the town, all looking very young. They are the members of the Spiritual Resurrection Martial Arts Pioneer Team. Lin Yi was wearing a t-shirt and trousers, and her snow-white skin was very conspicuous in the crowd. Including her, there were 4 women and 2 men in this group. At this moment, a short-haired girl was pulling her arm and asking her. Yi, I heard that you have been living with your cousin recently. How is it? Are you used to living there? Lin Yi nodded slightly. Not bad. How is your cousin? Is he handsome? The short-haired girl's eyes were burning with gossip. Her ID is 50 cents cheated in online dating. She looks innocent and cute, but she is a funny girl who likes handsome guys. He is more handsome than the pictures you saved online. Lin Yi recalled her cousin's appearance and commented sincerely, anyway, he is not the type of girl with milk burps and fever. Quote. She felt that her aesthetics was humiliated after being cheated of 50 cents in online dating. After living together for a few days, Lin Yi felt more and more that this cousin was actually very mediocre. In her memory, her cousin's grades have always been mediocre, and his grades always hover in the middle of the class, neither up nor down. He failed in the college entrance examination, so he should have gone to junior college. Junior college is nothing, but this cousin is also very easygoing. After living together for so long, I have never seen him have any bad habits, sleep on time, and often go out for exercise. It feels like an ordinary person among the masses. Ah, is that so? I thought I could get close to my friend's school idol cousin or something. She sighed after being cheated of 50 cents in an online relationship. If she was more handsome and capable, she really wanted to recognize Yi as her cousin and upgrade to her cousin's wife. What are you dreaming about? The tall lady next to her sneered. She was wearing a short skirt and her legs were longer than some people's lives. This is a beautiful 81-year-old young woman. Just as they were greeting and waiting. Not far away, under the shade of a tall tree, Feng Yi was fanning himself leisurely with an antique paper fan bought on the roadside. The overall strength of my cousin's team is pretty good. She herself is a 2-star ghost axe, which is above average. Her teammates are not bad either. There is even a 3-star ghost axe among them. The other few are at least 2 stars, which is relatively average. Feng Yi glanced over and found out the strength of several people. The only person who was at Samsung, besides Lin Yi, was a silent young man. He stood aside from the beginning to the end, as if thinking about something, and looked cautious and steady. By the way, didn't that person come this time? Lin Yi suddenly spoke. The silent young man shook his head. She's busy, so she can't come. Hearing this, Lin Yi said nothing, and the other members seemed to be used to it. It seems that there is a member who is often absent in this team. Feng Yi came to this conclusion. Suddenly, he stopped fanning. The team in front stood there for a while, and suddenly walked towards the town. Feng Yi followed them. Keeping a distance, he listened to them talking about the information about the great changes in Yangwo town. Do you have any other information about this big change? This time, a vine appeared. According to the information we have obtained, it often appears in various places at irregular times. This time it appeared in Yangwo town. Everyone who has seen it said that it is a very strange vine. It is hanging down from the sky. Some people speculate that it is a treasure left behind by the gods, some speculate that it is a variant with advanced properties, and some say that it is an indescribable existence in the sky. No one knows where its source is, and no one can explain clearly what it is. This is different from the information we have come into contact with in the past. It is too special. In the past, we knew what the high temperature, thunder, and even the magma dark river were before we got the news. I was mentally prepared for the weird celestial phenomena, earth veins, and even abnormalities, but this vine is beyond our understanding. It is really too weird. The online lover was cheated of a huge sum of 50 cents and his face was weird. Living in this turbulent and changing era, they often experience some shocks in their worldview. This is a normal phenomenon of the revival of spiritual energy. After all, in the eyes of ordinary people, the ability of the pioneers to absorb spiritual energy to cultivate themselves is a kind of metaphysics. And this vine is similar in their eyes. Metaphysics. Yes, it can only be described with these two words. It is obviously a great change in the world, but it has nothing to do with the weather, nor is it the collapse and reorganization of the surface. It is more like something that appeared out of thin air, drifting around, without causing any damage, nor making rare movements like thunder or scorching sun, just wandering around. If you ignore that it is hanging from the sky, it is just an ordinary vine. But it is not that ordinary. Actually, I'm a little worried about this operation. My intuition tells me that this operation will be the most dangerous one in history. The information we can get is very limited. The only thing we can confirm is that it is very likely to be a very advanced change in the world, an unknown, brand new change. To be honest, several friends I know have tried to contact this vine and broke several team members. Did someone die? Lin Yi paused and frowned slightly. The others also had a serious look on their faces and cast inquiring eyes. Well, they are all very powerful pioneers, and their realm is not low. The tone is low. For these pioneers who seek evolution, every change in the world is a gamble. The winner returns with a full load, but the loser is dead and buried forever in this beautiful land where the spiritual energy has not yet recovered. Moreover, there are not a few pioneers like them. Before the official disclosure of the Shah Kingdom, everything about the pioneers was hidden from the public. Even if they died in the great changes of heaven and earth, everything would be buried along with the strange phenomena of heaven and earth. Corpses, names, future, everything was buried. As pioneers, the others could not help but feel sad when they heard the news, and everyone was silent. Feng Yi heard the news from behind and was thoughtful. Death is rare in this city. But martial arts first means dangers are everywhere. The valley was quiet and ethereal. The light fell from the valley, casting a long shadow, and in this shadow, a huge vine fell down. The vine was dark green, so thick that 3 people could hug it together. It hung down from the sky and rested at the foot of the mountain, like an arm that a god could naturally relax when resting. At a glance, there was no end in sight. It was so spectacular. That feeling was empty and desolate, lonely and desolate. As this, that vine. This mountain looks beautiful, but in fact it is steep and surrounded by clouds and mist. 1 or 2 vines hanging down can't be seen clearly. No wonder not many people noticed this news. Indeed, from a distance, I thought it was a vine growing on the mountain. It was spectacular, but it didn't attract attention at first glance. But, what the news said is true. This vine looks really shocking. At first glance, I thought it was a painting, or the kind drawn by AI. I was cheated of 50 cents in online dating and rubbed my arms. Several people stopped halfway up the mountain. They all looked up at this huge wonder, and felt a very strange feeling in their hearts. Vines fell from the sky. It seemed like a few simple words, but the picture was actually very exaggerated, very much like a fairy tale I read when I was a child. Haven't you heard of that fairy tale? What's called Jack and the Pea? In the fairy tale, someone planted a magical pea seed, and then the pea seed grew up and grew directly to the sky. I haven't seen it, and then what? Someone asked curiously. Then the man climbed up the leaves to the sky, and there lived a giant in the sky, and then he stole the giant's gold, and finally let the giant fall to death, and then he lived a happy life. The 81-year-old beautiful young woman twitched her mouth when she heard it. Stealing, repaying kindness with enmity, and finally living a happy life, you call this a fairy tale? Fairy tales were not written for children at the beginning, but were used to satirize the society at that time. Okay, let's stop this topic. Lin Yi frowned slightly and interrupted their crooked topic. But there is one thing she said is very right. This vine gives people a feeling very similar to what is described in the fairy tale. It is soaring all the way into the clouds and reaching the sky, giving people an illusion that they want to climb up to see what is at the root. Especially, the feeling this vine gives people. Logically speaking, this vine should be of wood attribute, but for some reason, I feel a kind of desolate breath from it. Desolate, I feel it too. I don't know how to describe it. There is a feeling of sinking into the long river of time, annihilation of all things, and loss of vitality, which makes me very uncomfortable. I have the same feeling. As soon as I get close to here, my whole mood becomes very low. Could it be that this vine will devour our vitality? As soon as this terrifying guess came out, everyone felt a creepy feeling in their hearts. Looking at this vine again, there was a trace of fear in their eyes, as if they would be swept and swallowed in the next second. Look, suddenly, the 81-year-old beautiful young woman pointed to a part of the vine. Several people looked at it together, and their faces changed instantly. I saw the vine hanging on the cliff, and there were dried bloodstains on the slightly curled branches. There were several figures rolled up on it, not like the beasts in the valley, and their exposed limbs were still hung with clothes made of chemical fiber fabrics. They should be the pioneers killed by the vines. When they thought of this, everyone's scalp tingled. No one could remain absolutely calm when seeing the bodies of their companions. They should want to touch the vines and be swallowed by the desolate power. The taciturn 3-star young man in the team spoke. My suggestion is that we should not get closer and just sense it here. I agree. I agree too. As expected, his voice was unanimously approved. Opportunities must be taken, but they cannot be exchanged for their own lives. Lin Yi glanced at everyone and said in a deep voice, then let's sense it here. Everyone should move within the field of vision and don't go too far. Okay. Several people chose a seat and sat down one after another. The young man went to the nearest cave entrance, not too far from everyone. The girls gathered together, just beside the cliff. Lin Yi picked an old tree with lush branches and leaves. After choosing, several people entered the state of cultivation. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and the fragrance of the leaves flowed into her nose, which could alleviate the discomfort brought by the barren power of the vines. Soon, she entered the state of cultivation. Crystal clear spiritual energy circulated around her body, like a transparent barrier, wrapping her in it. In the distance, on another ancient tree, Fang Yi crossed his legs, lying on the tree trunk, waving a paper fan to fan himself. This vine feels very wrong. I'm so far away. Although I can't see the corpse, I can feel the gloomy death on it. How did they find this thing? After seeing so many strange phenomena in the world, except for the abnormal dark attribute, the vines here give people the most uncomfortable feeling. It is obviously a plant that symbolizes vitality, but it gives people a feeling of figurines. It doesn't look like a living thing, but more like a dead thing disguised as a living thing, without spiritual energy. Fang Yi planned to wait until they finished practicing before approaching to compile the exercises. At this moment, a storm suddenly surged at the location where Lin Yi was, and a powerful aura rushed out from the girl's body from the inside out, screaming sharply and rushing straight into the sky. The huge divine axe faintly showed an illusory projection in the air. Is it going to be upgraded so soon? Fang Yi was a little stunned. Before he came, he already knew that Lin Yi was about to be upgraded, but he didn't expect that she would reach the threshold of 3 stars so quickly. Is this a genius? My cousin is really gifted. Fang Yi couldn't help but exclaim. My cousin is only 17 this year, 1 year younger than me. She has already reached the threshold of 3 stars at this age. She is definitely a rare talent. Lin Yi's aura is constantly expanding. The transparent aura seems to have turned into a giant hand, holding the giant axe that symbolizes absolute power in midair, and the aura is swirling around and rushing into the girl's body. Lin Yi frowned slightly. She controlled all the aura and pressed on the giant axe with all her strength. Boom! The giant axe cut through the air fiercely and swung 3 times. Ghost axe, 3 stars. Success. Great Yi. Breaking through 3 stars at such a young age, you are simply the second demon in our group. The companions all showed excited expressions, surrounded Lin Yi and congratulated her. Even the taciturn young man praised her. Awesome. Lin Yi sat cross-legged on the ground, being supported by everyone. Just as everyone was immersed in this joyful atmosphere, the vines hanging from the sky moved silently. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. What's that sound? The 81-year-old beautiful young woman heard the strange sound and looked up suddenly. When she saw the situation in front of her clearly, her breathing stopped for a moment. Vines. Vines are coming towards us. What? Everyone looked up in horror, and what they saw was the overwhelming green. The vines are alive. The narrow leaves on the vines, which were originally embedded on them like small boats, have now turned into giant green pythons, sweeping towards everyone. The leaves seemed to be able to open their bloody mouths and approach everyone at a very fast speed, and they were about to eat everyone in the next second. Everyone's face changed drastically. How could this happen? Why did this vine suddenly come alive? Did Yi break through just now and attract its attention? We must not be caught by this vine. Once we are caught in it, the desolate aura will instantly entangle us, and we will be instantly melted. The young man's steady voice trembled slightly at this moment. Run. Hearing the young man's voice, everyone subconsciously had the same reaction in their hearts. If you don't run now, you will die here. The vines are as dense as thousands of troops, and countless tentacles are hidden under the green leaves, rushing forward like claws, and each vine carries infinite power and ferocity. Wherever it passes, rocks collapse and smoke and dust fly. Ancient trees are entangled by vines, branches are torn into pieces, and cliffs are cut in half by vines. The huge vines are like a ruthless monster, devouring all life. The thorns extended by the vines shine like sharp blades, making a piercing scream. In front of this green tsunami, everyone is like ordinary people facing natural disasters, with no power to fight back, because the gap is too big. They are subconsciously running wildly. No, we can't run. Yi hasn't come out of the breakthrough state yet. If we run, she will die here. We have to protect her. The 81-year-old beautiful young woman roared against the strong wind. The young man looked at Lin Yi with an ugly face. As she said, the girl was still at the critical moment of the breakthrough. Every time she swung the divine axe to upgrade the star, the practitioner's body would be reshaped, which others could not see. Lin Yi was obviously at this moment of reshaping. Use spiritual energy to protect her. I will try to cut off these vines. The young man ordered decisively. Everyone surrounded Lin Yi in the middle and urged the spiritual energy in their bodies to the outside. Streams of spiritual energy gushed out from the bodies of the pioneers, gathering in the air, weaving, and gradually forming a transparent barrier. The surface of the barrier fluctuated slightly, as if it was a pool of clear lake water, rippling under the injection of spiritual energy. Bang! As the greenness slapped violently, the barrier trembled slightly. Every impact of the greenness caused weak ripples on the barrier. Everyone struggled to stimulate the spiritual energy and support the barrier. And the monstrous greenness slapped the barrier again and again. Snap, 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 snap. Hold on. Wait for Yi to come out. Everyone gritted their teeth and continued to drain the spiritual energy in their bodies to maintain the operation of the barrier. But they obviously underestimated the lethality of the vines. The vines slapped the barrier endlessly and fiercely, making sharp explosions. The thin barrier looked thinner and was about to break under the slapping of this huge world change. With a plop, suddenly, one of them knelt on the ground, and he trembled and said, "My spiritual energy is about to run out, I can't hold on." He was only a star of the ghost axe, and his realm was very low. The spiritual energy stored in his body could not support him to squander like this. Seeing this, the young man gritted his teeth and looked at Lin Yi. The other party was still sitting cross-legged in the same place, with his eyes closed, not knowing what was happening in the outside world. Yi, wake up quickly. Wake up quickly, Yi, if this goes on, we will all die. Yi, can you hear me? Come out quickly. She can't hear us at all, this won't work. Someone cursed softly, his face was already very ugly. They were a team that gathered together because of the revival of spiritual energy. In the future revival of spiritual energy, they symbolized unity. If possible, they were unwilling to abandon any teammate. But what to do now? If they don't abandon Lin Yi, will all of them be buried here with her? I really can't hold on anymore. She was pale after being cheated of a huge sum of 50 cents on an online relationship. The spiritual energy flowing out of her body was getting less and less, and it was about to be completely extinguished. The state of the others was not much better, and their faces were as pale as paper. Let's escape by ourselves. If this continues, we can't run away. Okay. The young man's face was tense, and he was about to speak. At this moment, at the critical moment, a blazing flame brushed across his hair, and the blade directly scratched a bloody mark on his face. A knife appeared above his head. The blade was burning with a furious flame, as if it was going to burn the whole world to ashes. Even the lingering desolate aura on the vines was forced back by the extremely blazing young attribute and bowed to it. The man glanced at them lightly, then swung the knife and cut it lightly. An extremely dazzling light burst out from the blade, like a dazzling sun, making it impossible to look directly at it. Everyone subconsciously covered their eyes and was forced back by the dazzling light. The next second, a thin line appeared on the vine. The extremely tough vines, like a boulder, were cut off as smoothly as tofu under this knife. The members of the martial arts team were stunned. What exactly is this blazing knife? Before they could react, a more terrifying scene appeared. When the knife was swung, the vines broke into pieces and fell like stones. The remaining part of the vines seemed to sense the irresistible pressure and quickly shrank back. The vines retreated on their own initiative after being cut by the knife. The pupils of the martial arts team reflected the retreating vines, and they actually felt a little funny, like a lawless and ferocious beast, which lowered its head and went back obediently after seeing an absolutely powerful existence. Absurd. Too absurd. Everyone stared at this scene in a daze, as well as the person who suddenly appeared. He stood on the cliff against the light, with the knife head slightly lowered, and the sun shone on him, making his back look like a god standing on the top of the mountain, which was daunting. Pioneer, huh? The young man subconsciously stroked his stinging cheek, his fingers still stained with burning heat. The ultimate yang attribute. Only such a powerful high-level attribute can force back the desolate power. The young man believed that he was also extremely talented. He was usually called a genius just to modestly say that he was not, but in his heart, the only one who could surpass his talent was the super monster who didn't come today, and Lin Yi could only say that she was tied with him. But now, his confidence was severely crushed by this knife. If there is such an existence among the pioneers, then what are they, who are slightly talented? The few stars that set off the bright moon. The huge impact of the vines was so great that even the spiritual energy gathered by the few of them could only barely block it, but the man slashed it with a knife, not only cutting off the vines, but also forcing the most terrifying desolate power on it to retreat. This kind of strength is simply a crushing level existence. Did not notice the collapse of the young man. A man who was cheated out of 50 cents in an online relationship stared at the knife-wielding figure that fell from the sky, and whispered to himself. The hero appears on a colorful cloud. It's nothing more than this scene, right? So cool. It's something you can't even dream of. Before the knife fell, she thought she was going to die young. Everyone stared at Fang Yi's back, with different thoughts. There was shock, fear, and envy in their eyes. Fang Yi didn't hear her embarrassing whisper. At this moment, the system sound in his ear was ringing in an orderly manner. The extreme wood attribute is detected, and it is being automatically written. Written successfully. Endless life. It can instantly absorb all the vitality around it and quickly recover from its own injuries. The skill has been written. Fang Yi's eyes lit up when he heard the description of this skill. What a powerful wood attribute skill. This is simply a magical skill. When you are exhausted in battle, you can still absorb the vitality around you to recharge your own injuries, which is more terrifying than healing. As long as there is vitality around, it keeps absorbing and recharging. Isn't it a perpetual motion machine? Of course, Fang Yi just thought about it casually. With his current strength, this technique is not up to the level of a perpetual motion machine. Even if there is, he can't suck Taishi dry. However, with the improvement of realm, the spiritual energy is abundant and all things revive. The effect that this technique can play is absolutely extremely terrifying, and you dare not even think about it. Extracting attributes. Extracted attribute. Desolate. Desolate attribute. Can instantly stir up a desolate atmosphere and corrode all the vitality around. No wonder this vine can only grow in this rugged place. If it grows in other places, I am afraid that the vitality of dozens of miles will be sucked dry by it. This desolate attribute is too overbearing, forcibly plundering the vitality of others. Deprivation, fatal. This new material panel is very suitable for making some old 6 weapons. What should I implant it into at that time? Fang Yi fell into deep thought. Suddenly, thank you for saving my life, brother. A royal sister looked at Fang Yi, her eyes sparkling with bright light. The 81-year-old beautiful young woman has never been interested in men. But Fang Yi's flaming tang sword just now was like a divine weapon from heaven. It is no exaggeration to say that it saved them from the sea of fire. Hearing her voice, everyone woke up from their dream. Thank you very much. If it weren't for you just now, we would have been in trouble. That sword was so cool. I have the material for my dream tonight. What's your WeChat number, brother? I'll transfer money to you, my life-saving money. Several people came up and thanked him. Fang Yi waved his hand hurriedly when he saw this. No need. He got the information from them to come here to get this endless life and desolate attribute. In total, he made a lot of money. One should not be too Tang-san, and cannot have both. He rejected the kindness of several people, said nothing more, turned around and left. 10 minutes after he left, Lin Yi woke up. Looking at the mess around her, she showed a look of astonishment. What happened? You woke up too late, and missed the hero's appearance. She was cheated of 50 cents on the internet and looked like a fangirl. Lin Yi ignored her and asked the young man, who was in a state of dismay. Although the young man's heart was broken, he was still rational. He told her about her breakthrough and the vines that triggered her to attack, and how she was saved by a young man at the critical moment. Lin Yi was stunned. When I broke through just now, it caused such a big commotion, but I was completely unaware of it. She lowered her head and looked at the traces on the ground. There was a charred mark on the ground, the land cracked, the rocks broke, and the scorching heat was released. The originally lush vegetation turned into ashes, emitting a bitter smell of burning, which spread under the cover of smoke and dust. The embers of the fire were still dancing on the ground, flashing a faint red light and making crackling sounds. There was still residual heat of yang on it, and it was scorching just by approaching it, as if you were in a furnace. It was hard to imagine how brilliant that knife was. That's simply a monster. The young man's voice was dull, and it was obvious that he was severely hit. We couldn't cut the vines no matter how hard we tried, but now he forced them back with one knife. Look, the vines are now retreating far away and shrinking in the sky, not daring to approach us at all. This is the man's deterrence. Although everyone had left, the vines were still as obedient as chickens, and there was no sign of the roaring and disorderly appearance just now. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.